Please don't say you raised me. Leah caught my wrist just before I pushed open the door to the private dining room. Behind it, 30 people were clinking glasses under a crooked gold banner that said, "Happy Retirement Nora." My name had already lost an R because one of the plastic letters was peeling off the wall. I looked at my daughter's hand, then at her face. "What?" "Not in your speech." She lowered her voice. "Corinne's nervous enough. If you start talking about how you raised me, she'll think you're making a point." I was planning to make a point. It's a speech. You know what I mean. Through the narrow pane in the door, I could see Corinne sitting in the chair beside mine. Leah had placed one hand on her shoulder while arranging the tables earlier. Corinne was still wearing that touch like a corsage. Leah glanced back toward the dining room. "Just talk about loving me. Don't make it about who did what. My retirement dinner, my daughter, my 30 years of showing up, suddenly too inflammatory to mention." "And what," I asked, "should I say when people ask how we met?" Leah's mouth tightened. "That isn't funny. I hadn't meant it to be." 2 hours earlier, I had been standing in my bedroom in one black shoe and one stockinged foot, arguing with my dead husband. The argument was mostly one-sided. Michael's photograph stayed propped against the lamp, wearing the brown sport coat I'd spent 15 years trying to get rid of. He had liked it because the elbows made him look, in his words, professorial. Michael sold commercial air conditioning units. The closest he ever got to a university was fixing one. "You could have lived 8 more years, I told him. "That wouldn't have killed you." Then I looked at the photograph. All right, poor choice of words. I had bought a blue dress for the dinner, nothing extravagant, though Paula said the neckline made me look like I had plans after dessert. My sister believed retirement should begin with either a cruise or an affair, preferably both. She had called twice that afternoon to make sure I wasn't wearing beige. I was fastening Michael's old watch around my wrist when Leah knocked once and let herself in. "You're not dressed?" "I am dressed." "You have one shoe on." The dress code said semi-formal. "I'm halfway there." She didn't laugh. That was the first sign. Leah usually gave me at least a polite puff of air when I made a joke, even a bad one. But that afternoon she was moving too fast for humor. She crossed the room, straightened the watch on my wrist, then picked a thread from my shoulder that I'm fairly sure was imaginary. Her hair was pinned into a smooth knot that made her look severe until she smiled. She had Michael's eyebrows and Corinne's mouth, though I had spent years pretending not to notice the second part. "The restaurant called," she said. "They put us in the magnolia room instead of the terrace room. Is there a magnolia in it?" "No." "Then that feels dishonest. The terrace room has a broken air conditioner. Your father would have taken that personally." She looked toward his photograph, and her whole face softened. It always did. Whatever else had become complicated between us, we were still fluent in missing him. Then her phone buzzed. Leah turned it over too quickly. "Corinne?" I asked. "She's worried about parking. The restaurant has a parking lot. She doesn't like pulling into crowded lots. Does she reverse in from the highway?" "Mama." The name slipped out automatically. It still belonged to me when no one else was in the room. I sat on the edge of the bed to put on my other shoe. I'm only saying it's an unusual thing to be worried about. She wants tonight to go well. So do I know. But Leah said it the way people say, "I'm sure you didn't mean anything by it." Corinne had been back in steady contact for 6 months, which was 5 months longer than her previous record. She and Leah had brunch every other Saturday. They had gone to a play, though they left at intermission because Corinne found the lead actor aggressively damp. Leah had repeated that phrase to me twice, delighted by it. She was collecting Corinne's expressions as if they were family silver recovered from a pawn shop. I had tried to be generous about the whole thing. Generosity is easier when nobody asks you to prove it in public. At the restaurant, Paula was in the lobby demanding tape from a teenage-looking hostess who, upon closer inspection, had to be at least 25. The banner had started losing letters before it was even hung. If they charge a cake-cutting fee, Paula told her, they can afford adhesive. The hostess looked at me with the desperate recognition of someone who had correctly identified the less difficult sister. "Ms. Bell, your party is in the Magnolia Room. Is there a magnolia in it?" I asked. She blinked. "Never mind." Paula kissed my cheek and whispered, "Corinne's here." I gathered that from the emergency parking bulletin. She brought a gift. That's generally allowed at retirement dinners. It's large. I saw it as soon as I entered the room, a framed print wrapped in clear cellophane, leaning against the wall behind the gift table. A silver bow had been stuck to the top corner. Corinne stood beside it in a green dress, talking to Ruth Chen from Circulation as though they had spent the last decade sharing recipes. Corinne had always been able to enter a room without looking like she had entered it. She simply appeared settled, one elbow resting on a chair, head tilted in confidential interest. The first time I met her, more than 30 years earlier, I understood why Michael had once rearranged his whole life around her. 5 minutes later, I understood why he had stopped. She saw me and lifted both hands. There she is. For one foolish second, I looked behind me. Corinne crossed the room and hugged me. Her perfume smelled like oranges and something medicinal. "Congratulations," she said. "You must feel so free. I mostly feel unemployed." "Oh, don't say that. This is your reward." She held my upper arms and studied me as if checking for damage. Time had been fair to her in the careless way it is sometimes fair to people who never expect fairness. Her hair had gone silver at the temples, and the lines around her mouth made her look more approachable than she had ever been. "I wasn't sure I should come," she said. "Leah invited you. She said you wanted me here." Across the room, Leah was rearranging place cards. I glanced at her. "Then you should stay." Corinne smiled, relieved enough that I almost felt guilty. Almost. The Magnolia Room smelled faintly of old coffee and lemon cleaner. Leah had filled the tables with small jars of library checkout cards folded into paper flowers. My colleagues loved them. Ruth immediately unfolded one to see whether it had been used in a real book. "It's from a discarded copy of The Joy of Cooking," Leah told her. Ruth held up a strip. "This one says, kidneys." "Put that flower near Paula," I said. For a while, the evening belonged to me. People told stories from the library, the man who returned a book 22 years late and asked if we accepted payment plans, the city councilman who got locked in the restroom during a budget meeting. The winter, the heating failed and we issued fingerless gloves at the reference desk. Dennis from maintenance gave me a retirement card signed by half the staff and 3 people none of us could identify. Paula drank champagne like she was trying to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. Leah moved through the room, checking plates, refilling water, thanking people for coming. Every time she passed my chair, she touched my shoulder. It was one of her oldest habits. Even as an adult, she liked to make contact without stopping, as if confirming I was still where she'd left me. Corinne sat on my other side and asked kind questions. She laughed in the right places. When Ruth mentioned Leah's college years, Corinne went quiet and buttered the same piece of bread for almost a minute. I noticed. So did Leah. She immediately steered the conversation toward the play they had seen together. "The lead actor sweated through his costume," Leah said. Corinne said he was aggressively damp. Everyone laughed. Corinne looked pleased, and Leah looked even more pleased that she had pleased her. I drank my water. It was not a crime for them to have a joke. That was the trouble with the entire evening. Nothing was bad enough by itself. After the plates were cleared, Leah stood and tapped her spoon against her glass. The room settled into that expectant hush that makes an ordinary person look briefly important. "My mother," she began, looking at me, "has spent her whole life helping people find what they need." That was a good opening. Better than I expected, actually. She talked about the library, about Michael, about how I could remember the due date of any book but not where I'd put my glasses. She told the story of finding them in the freezer once, leaving out the fact that I'd been holding frozen peas against a sprained wrist. Then she said, "I'm so excited that she'll finally have time to put herself first." Everyone applauded. I smiled. It was a kind speech. It was also the speech people give about a woman whose life has contained no one in particular. Dessert arrived before my turn. Chocolate cake, raspberry filling, white icing so sweet it made the back of my jaw ache. I ate 3 bites while my folded note card rested in my lap. On it, I had written about the night Leah called me from her first apartment because the radiator sounded like someone beating a pipe with a wrench. I'd driven 40 minutes only to discover that someone was, in fact, beating a pipe with a wrench. I had written about moving her into that apartment, and the next one, and the one after that. I had written that raising her had been the hardest good thing I had ever done. Then Corinne leaned close to ask where the restroom was. I pointed toward the hall. She stood, and Leah followed her out a moment later. When they didn't return, I went to check whether something was wrong. That was when Leah stopped me outside the dining room and asked me not to say I had raised her. Now she released my wrist and rubbed the place where her fingers had been. "I'm not erasing you," she said. I looked through the glass at Corinne's empty chair beside mine. "What would you call it? I'm asking you not to make tonight harder than it has to be." "For whom?" Leah exhaled through her nose. "Can we please not do this here?" There were 30 people 10 feet away, waiting for me to come back and accept their congratulations. On the wall behind them, the loose R finally gave up and fluttered to the carpet. Leah's eyes followed mine. "I'll fix it," she said. Of course she would. Leah could not bear a crooked label, a missing letter, an uncomfortable silence. She would fix anything that could be reached with tape. I folded my note card in half. Then I folded it again. "All right," I said. Her shoulders dropped. "Thank you." When we returned, Leah picked up the fallen letter. I walked to the front of the room and set my little square of paper beside the cake. I thanked everyone. I spoke about the library, about friendship, about Michael, and all the plans retirement had arrived too late to keep. When I looked at Leah, she was watching me with both hands clasped under her chin. "I'm proud of the woman my daughter has become," I said. It was true. That was what made it hurt. The applause came quickly, warm and generous, and I stood there long enough to receive it without appearing ungrateful. Ruth wiped under both eyes with her napkin. Dennis raised his coffee cup. Paula clapped over her head like I had just won a prize on television. Leah smiled at me with visible relief. I sat down. "You were perfect," she whispered. Perfect was apparently a woman who could edit herself in real time. Corinne touched my arm. "That was lovely, Nora. Thank you. I didn't know Michael wanted to travel. He wanted to do a lot of things." The answer landed harder than I intended. Her hand slid away. Leah gave me a warning glance, but before she could redirect the conversation, Paula stood with her champagne. "I'd like to say something." That was never a sentence you wanted to hear from Paula after her second glass. I reached for the back of her dress and gave it a small tug. "You already gave a toast. That was a welcome toast. This is a rebuttal. Sit down. I'm honoring you. You can honor me from your chair." The people nearest us laughed, which allowed Paula to sit without looking defeated. She leaned toward me and whispered, "You left out half your life." I left out a lot of things. Nobody wants a retirement speech with intermission. I would have stayed. You're taking cake home in your purse. That has no bearing on my attention span. Across the table, Corinne was watching us with an uncertain smile. I wondered what Leah had told her before the dinner, that I was thrilled she was coming, that we had all reached some mature, graceful age when the past became a charming misunderstanding. Corinne tapped her glass with one fingernail. "I'll be brief," she said as she rose. Leah sat straighter. "I know tonight is about Nora, and I don't want to take away from that. It is remarkable how often people take something away immediately after saying they do not want to. I haven't known Nora the way all of you have," Corinne continued, "but I know how much she gave to Michael, and I know how proud we both are of the woman our daughter became. Our daughter." The words were not exactly false. That made them harder to object to. Corinne looked at Leah. Sometimes life gives people a long road back to each other. I'm grateful Leah left the light on for me. Leah reached up and took her hand. There was a silence in the room that did not belong to a retirement dinner. My colleagues knew enough about my life to sense a missing section, though probably not enough to name it. Ruth looked down at her plate. Dennis suddenly became interested in the coffee stain on his sleeve. Corinne lifted her glass toward me. To new chapters. Everyone drank because there was nothing else to do. I drank water. The framed gift turned out to be a map of the United States with a box of colored pins attached to the back. Across the bottom, in looping letters, it said, "The best is yet to come." That was Corinne's idea, Leah said while peeling away the cellophane. Corinne looked startled. "Well, you said she wanted to travel. You remembered the map. You found it." They both looked at me. "It's large," I said. Paula made a sound that could have been a cough. "You mark all the places you visit," Corinne explained. "Red for places you've been, blue for where you're going next. What color for places where the air conditioner works?" I asked. This time, Leah did laugh, but it came with a plea inside it. "Please be normal now." I ran my fingers over the glass. It was a thoughtful gift. Michael would have spent an hour arguing that the map had drawn Michigan wrong. I could hear him saying it, which made me have to look away. "Thank you," I told Corinne. "It's very kind." Her relief was immediate. I thought it could be a fresh start. She meant retirement. I was almost sure she meant retirement. The evening broke apart in stages. People collected coats and leftover cake. Ruth hugged me twice and made me promise not to disappear. Dennis told me retirement was basically Saturday with joint pain, though he had been retired for only 3 weeks and had already visited the library 6 times. Paula stood guard near the gift table while the restaurant staff found a box for the map. "They're charging Leah for the box," she informed me. "No, they're not. They would if I wasn't standing here." "Your service to this family is immeasurable." "I know." Leah wanted photographs before everyone left. She arranged us beneath the banner after reattaching the R with a piece of tape that showed through the gold plastic. "Closer," she told us. I stood on one side of her, Corinne on the other. Leah put an arm around each of us. Ruth held up 3 phones and squinted at them. "Which one am I using?" "The black one," Leah said. "They're all black. Mine has the clear case. They all have clear cases." Paula took the phones from her. "This is why civilizations collapse." In the first picture, Corinne blinked. In the second, I was looking at Leah instead of the camera. In the third, all 3 of us smiled correctly. Leah checked the screen. "That one's good." Of course it was. I could already imagine it framed somewhere. Proof of an evening that had gone beautifully. When the restaurant manager brought my coat, I told him to give the flowers to the staff. Leah overheard. "You're not taking them? They'll die in my kitchen." "They'll die here, too." "Then at least they'll have company." She stared at me. "Why are you acting like this?" "Like what?" "Sad in a way everybody can notice." I looked around. Half the room had emptied. Paula was arguing with the box. Corinne was in the hall calling someone, possibly to report that parking lots could be survived. "I'm tired, Leah. I planned all of this for you. And it was beautiful." "You don't sound like you mean that. I mean, you planned a beautiful dinner." Her face changed slightly. She heard the missing words. A dinner, for me, would have required me to be there. "You could try," she said quietly. I buttoned my coat. I did. I kissed her cheek and went to help Paula wrestle the map into the back seat of her car. The night had turned cold enough to make the parking lot shine. Paula shut the rear door, looked at me and said, "I'm not asking." "Good. I'm waiting." "That's asking with your face." My face has always been efficient. We sat in her car with the engine running. The map lay diagonally across the back seat because it was 3 inches too wide to fit flat. Every time Paula shifted, the cardboard box scraped against the headrest. "She asked me not to say I raised her," I said. Paula went perfectly still. Then she reached for the door handle. I grabbed her sleeve. No. I'm going back inside. To do what? I haven't selected the wording yet. You're not saying anything. Nora. I agreed. You agreed? I didn't want a scene. You had a scene. It was just quiet, and you were the only one bleeding. I let go of her sleeve. Paula put both hands on the steering wheel. Her rings clicked against it. What reason could she possibly have given? She didn't want Corinne to feel attacked. At your retirement dinner, yes. Because you raised your daughter, yes. And the fact of that might upset the woman who did not. I looked out at the restaurant windows. Through the glass, I could see Leah hugging Corinne near the hostess stand. Apparently. Paula followed my eyes. You are not getting out of this car. I wasn't planning to. You have that look. What look? The one where you decide everybody else is wounded, so you must not be. I turned on the heater. You're dramatic, I said. You're cold. The car is cold. I wasn't talking about the car. She drove me home without another word, which for Paula was an act of love so strenuous it probably caused muscle damage. Inside my house, everything was exactly as I had left it. One water glass beside the sink, Michael's photograph near the lamp, the bedroom lights still on. Paula carried in the map and leaned it against the dining room wall. Do you want me to stay? She asked. No. Do you want me to take the map? No. Do you want me to run over it accidentally? I want you to go home. She kissed my forehead. Call me before you start forgiving people who haven't apologized. After she left, I took off Michael's watch and set it beside his photograph. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator cycling on. I opened my purse for my keys, though the keys were already in the door. The folded note card was inside. I did not remember putting it there. Maybe Ruth had picked it up from beside the cake. Maybe I had slipped it into my bag after the speech without noticing. I unfolded it until the creases made it soft. Radiator, I had written. 3 apartments. Hardest good thing. I sat at the dining table with my coat still on. The map watched me from the wall, all those empty states waiting for pins. My phone buzzed. A photograph from Leah, the good one. All 3 of us stood beneath the repaired banner, smiling like women who had agreed on the past. Her message read, "Thank you for making tonight special. Love you, Mama." I stared at Mama until the word blurred. Then I turned the phone face down. It rang at 9 the next morning. I had slept badly and awakened angry at my coffee maker for taking too long. By the time Leah called, I was standing barefoot in the kitchen, eating cold retirement cake over the sink. Did I wake you? She asked. No. I wanted to check on you. I'm alive. Okay. She waited for me to make the joke kinder. I didn't. I barely slept, she said. Corinne thinks you hate her. I don't hate Corinne. She said you were cold after her toast. I thanked her for the map. She noticed you didn't take the flowers. The flowers weren't from Corinne. That's not the point. I set down my fork. What is the point? The point is that people noticed something was wrong. Ruth asked me if you were feeling okay. Paula looked like she wanted to set the building on fire. Paula often looks that way. Can you be serious? I have been serious since the hallway. Leah went quiet. Then she said, It was one request. It was one sentence. Exactly. One sentence I was not permitted to say at my own retirement dinner. I didn't say you weren't permitted. I asked you to be sensitive. To whom? We're not doing this. You called me. I called because I thought you might care that Corinne went home feeling terrible. And how did I go home? Another silence. When Leah answered, her voice was smaller but not softer. Why does it always have to be a competition with you? That struck someplace clean. I looked at the map leaning against my dining room wall, still in its box. I have never competed with Corinne, I said. I made room for her every time she came back. I comforted you every time she left. I answered your questions about her when the honest answer would have made you hate her. I never asked you to do that. No, you only needed it. She breathed in sharply. I could have stopped. The old version of me would have. She would have changed the subject, asked whether Leah had eaten, and made the hurt small enough to carry without using both hands. Instead, I said, "You keep telling yourself it was one sentence, but 30 years can be erased one sentence at a time." "That's not fair," Leah said. "Fair to whom?" "You're making it sound like I asked you to deny being my mother. You asked me not to say I raised you." Because of the context. The context was a dinner about my life. No, the context was Corinne sitting 10 feet away while you gave a speech. I knew you were hurt. I knew you'd want to make some pointed comment. I looked down at the piece of cake in the sink. Raspberry filling had bled into the icing. What pointed comment did I make? That's not the issue. It's exactly the issue. I did what you asked, but you made everybody feel that you were doing it. I laughed once, though nothing was funny. Should I have taken acting lessons? I wanted one night where nobody made her feel like a failure, and you chose my night. I didn't choose anything. The dinner date was set before I invited her. You did choose Leah. You just chose quietly. She started to speak, stopped, then moved the phone away from her mouth. I could hear a muffled sound, maybe her saying something to Adrian. Leah and her partner had been together 6 years, long enough that he knew when to leave the room and when to pretend he had never entered it. When she came back, her voice had changed. Calm, careful. The voice she used when she believed I was becoming unreasonable. "What do you want me to do, Mama?" The name no longer comforted me. Not because I doubted it, but because she seemed to want it available only in private. "I want you to stop asking me to make Corinne's return possible. I don't do that. You called me before your first lunch with her to ask what she liked in her coffee. That was a normal question. You called afterward because she didn't remember the name of the street where you lived with Michael. I told you she had left before he moved you there. You asked me not to phrase it that way because it sounded judgmental. I was trying to understand. You asked me which songs she used to play, what perfume she wore, whether she liked lilies. I have spent 6 months supplying you with a woman I barely knew, so the woman herself wouldn't disappoint you. That is such an ugly way to describe it. It's an ugly position." She went silent again. I had not planned any of those sentences. They had apparently been waiting in an orderly line. "I'm your daughter," she said at last. "I thought I could talk to you. You can." "Obviously not. You can talk to me about how you feel. You cannot keep asking me to erase what happened so you can feel it more comfortably." Her breath trembled, and for a second I nearly reached through the phone in the only way I could, by taking everything back. Then she said, "This is why I was afraid to reconnect with her." That stopped me. This? The guilt. The sense that loving her would be betraying you. I have never asked you not to love her. You don't have to ask. There are accusations built from things a person did, and accusations built from how another person felt near them. The second kind are harder to defend against because evidence only makes you look cruel. I picked up my coffee and found it cold. "I'm going to tell you what I can do," I said. "I can respect that you want a relationship with Corinne. I can be civil to her. I can even hope it becomes something good. What I will not do is attend another dinner where the truth about us is treated like bad manners. And I'm not going to keep supplying memories and explanations so nobody has to notice where she wasn't. So this is a boundary now?" The word sounded sarcastic in her mouth. If that's what people call saying no more than once. It feels like punishment. It probably does. You're used to me saying yes. That's cheap. No, cheap would have been letting Paula give her rebuttal. Despite herself, Leah gave a short laugh. It vanished almost immediately, but I heard it. So did she. "I need to go," she said. "All right. We're supposed to come to your house next weekend. I know. Do you still want us there?" Us meant Leah and Adrian. It had always meant Leah and Adrian. For one nervous moment, I wondered if Corinne had been added without my knowing. "Yes," I said. "I do." "Okay. All right." Neither of us hung up. I wanted her to say she was sorry. She wanted me to make it unnecessary. Finally, Adrian's voice sounded in the background. Leah said, "I really have to go, I heard you. Bye, Mama, goodbye, honey." The call ended. I stood in my kitchen with my fork in one hand and the cold coffee in the other, feeling as if I had won something I did not want. My first official Monday of retirement began at 6:15 because my body did not believe me. I showered, dressed, packed a lunch, and had my hand on the car keys before realizing I had nowhere to be. The library would open without me. Ruth would complain about the copy machine. Dennis would wander in around 10 and claim he happened to be nearby. Somebody else would handle all of it. I unpacked the sandwich. By 9, I had cleaned the bathroom cabinet and discovered that Michael owned 7 nearly empty containers of dental floss. I had not thrown them away after he died because grief makes an archivist out of people who used to complain about clutter. At 10:30, Paula arrived with a hammer. "I didn't invite you. You sounded unstable." I said good morning. "You used a period in a text." "I always use punctuation. You normally use an exclamation point when you lie." She walked to the dining room and looked at the boxed map. "You're not hanging that there." "You brought a hammer." "To hang it somewhere less insulting. It's a map, not an obscene photograph. It's a map that says the best is yet to come, given to a widow at her retirement dinner by the woman whose absence provided most of her workload. You have a gift for making objects sound guilty." She opened the top of the box and peered inside. It came with pins, I was told. "Red for places you've been?" "Yes." "Blue for places you're going?" "Yes." "What color for places where your daughter pretends someone else raised her?" I took the hammer from her. "You're not helping. I didn't come to help. I came to judge." She followed me into the kitchen and found the remaining cake. "You ate this over the sink, didn't you?" I used a fork. That's not what I asked. I told her about the call while she cut herself a piece twice the size of mine. She listened without interrupting, which meant she was either taking me seriously or had too much cake in her mouth. When I finished, she pointed the fork at me. "Good. It doesn't feel good. Most healthy things are unpleasant. Kale, mammograms, saying no to Leah. I'm not cutting her off. I know. I don't want her to think I'm forcing her to choose. Then don't force her. I'm not. Excellent. Problem solved. You're very comforting. People misunderstand comfort. Sometimes comfort is someone refusing to help you build a staircase down into your own basement." I stared at her. She swallowed another bite. "I heard it in a podcast. Of course you did." Before leaving, Paula hammered a picture hook into the wall opposite the dining table. She did not hang the map. "So you have options," she said. The empty hook looked more accusatory than the box. Leah did not call that day. She did not call Tuesday or Wednesday either. I found reasons not to notice. Ruth took me to lunch at a diner near the library and spent 20 minutes describing everything that had gone wrong since I left. The book drop jammed. A toilet overflowed. A man had tried to donate 14 boxes of magazines from 1987. "You see," she said, "you retired and society collapsed." Paula predicted that over the phones. Ruth stirred sweetener into her tea. "Are you okay?" "There's that question again. You looked like you were holding your breath all night." I gave a speech. That wasn't when. Ruth had worked beside me for 23 years. She knew the difference between my public face and my face when I had decided no one else deserved trouble. "I was tired," I said. She nodded without believing me. The dinner was beautiful. It was. And strange. I looked at her. "She called Leah our daughter," Ruth said. "I didn't know if I was supposed to understand something. You understood it. I thought I might." The waitress came to refill our drinks. Ruth waited until she moved away. "I don't need details," she said. "I just don't want you thinking nobody noticed." That should have comforted me. Instead, it made my skin hot. I wish they hadn't. Why? Because then Leah was right. I made everyone uncomfortable. Ruth set down her spoon. "Nora, silence can be uncomfortable when everybody knows it's covering something." I looked toward the window. 2 women were struggling to fold a stroller into a trunk, laughing as it sprang open again. Beyond them, the library's brick roof was just visible over the pharmacy. "Is this what retirement is?" I asked. "People explaining my own behavior to me over lunch?" "Mostly. There's also gardening." On Thursday afternoon, Leah texted, "We won't make it next weekend. I think some space might be good." I read the message in the grocery store beside a display of canned tomatoes. An employee pushing a cart of boxes said, "Excuse me," and I realized I was blocking the aisle. I moved. For years, Leah had spent one weekend each month at my house with Adrian. Not because she needed to, because after Michael died, the 3 of us had discovered that a house could feel less abandoned if people arrived carrying too many groceries. Adrian cooked. Leah changed things on my phone without permission. We watched terrible movies and argued about whether they knew they were terrible. I typed, "I understand." Deleted it. Typed, "If that's what you need." Deleted that too. Finally, I wrote, "Okay, the guest room will be here when you're ready." Her reply came 10 minutes later. "This isn't about the guest room." I stood beside the canned tomatoes, looking at those 6 words until the screen dimmed. "I know," I said aloud. The employee glanced back at me. I put 2 cans in my basket, though I did not need either one. On Sunday, I cooked the chicken I had planned to make for Leah and Adrian. I could have frozen it uncooked, but doing that felt too much like admitting the weekend had been taken from me. The table looked foolish set for one, so I carried my plate to the living room. At 7:30, my phone rang. I reached for it too fast. It was Corinne. I watched her name glow against the dark screen until the call almost went to voicemail. Then I answered. "Nora," she said, breathless with relief. "Thank God. I was afraid you wouldn't pick up." I looked toward the dining room where the map still waited in its box beneath the empty hook. "Why wouldn't I?" I asked. "I don't know," Corinne said. "You seemed upset when you left. I was tired." That's what Leah said. Of course it was. The chicken on my plate had already gone cold. I tucked my feet under me on the sofa and waited. Corinne had never been comfortable with silence. In the years when she came and went, she filled every gap with promises, compliments, or reasons. She could make a person feel cruel simply by allowing her enough time to hear herself. "I wanted to thank you again," she said, "for making me feel welcome." "You're welcome." "And for the map. You gave me the map. I meant for accepting it. I worried it might be too personal. It has all 50 states. That's fairly broad." She laughed, then stopped when she realized I had not. "Nora, I don't want to come between you and Leah." I looked down at my plate. "Then don't. I'm not trying to. I didn't say you were. You said it in a way that suggested it. I'm beginning to think my tone has become a separate member of this family." She let out a breath. "Leah says you think she's replacing you. Did she?" "Not in those exact words. What exact words did she use? That you're having a hard time with us reconnecting. Us." Every small word had begun carrying furniture. "I'm having a hard time with what she asked me to do at the dinner." The pause was long enough that I sat forward. "What did she ask?" Corinne said. I could have told her. I could have repeated Leah's sentence exactly and let it do what truth sometimes does when released into the right room. But the argument belonged to Leah and me. Handing it to Corinne would have turned it into evidence in a trial I kept insisting I did not want. "You should ask her." That sounds ominous. It wasn't ominous, it was painful. "I'm sorry. You don't know what you're sorry for. I'm sorry you were hurt." That's a safe apology. Corinne did not answer immediately. When she did, the lightness had left her voice. "I know you don't think very much of me. I don't spend as much time thinking about you as you imagine. That might be worse." It wasn't meant to be. Yes, it was. She surprised me with that. Corinne was usually so quick to step away from a sharp edge that I had forgotten she could sometimes pick one up. I put my plate on the coffee table. "Your toast made it sound like you and I had been standing side by side all these years," I said. "I said we were both proud of her. You called her our daughter. She is." "Yes." The word came out harder than I intended. Corinne's voice softened. I know what you did for Leah. Do you? Michael told me enough. Michael spent years trying not to make you feel accused. And you think you didn't? I think I stopped mentioning you because your name could ruin an entire week. That wasn't my fault. No, the leaving was. She inhaled, a small injured sound. I closed my eyes. That was unkind. It was accurate. Accuracy did not make me feel any cleaner. The refrigerator clicked off in the kitchen. Somewhere outside, a dog barked twice and was answered by another dog farther down the block. I'm not asking Leah to choose, I said. I need you to understand that. I do, but I'm also not going to help create a version of the past that makes everybody comfortable. I haven't asked you to. Not directly. What does that mean? It means you thanked me for making you feel welcome at a dinner where I was asked to be less visible so you could feel more secure. She did not speak. I wondered if she knew after all. Maybe not the words. Maybe only the shape of what Leah had done for her. Finally, she said, I didn't ask Leah to do that. I know. Then why are you angry with me? I'm not sure I am. That's not comforting. I'm not trying to comfort you. Another surprise? She laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It sounded tired and a little embarrassed. Well, she said, I suppose I earned that. I rested my head against the back of the sofa. What did you call for, Corinne? I told you. No. You gave me the preface. She was quiet again. Leah and I are having lunch Wednesday, she said. I thought maybe you could join us. No. The answer came so fast it startled me. You don't even know where. I don't think geography is the problem. It might be good for Leah to see us getting along. We got along at the dinner. Did we? No one threw a glass. My standards are slightly higher than that. Mine are newly under review. Corinne sighed. I'm trying to make this easier. For Leah, for everyone. There is no everyone in this. There's you and Leah. There's Leah and me. There's you and me, though I'm not sure why. Putting us all at one table will not turn those into the same relationship. You always did make things sound very final, and you always mistook clarity for a locked door. That silenced both of us. I thought of the handful of times Corinne had stood on our porch carrying some hopeful object, a birthday card, a scarf, a bakery box, as if the right offering could reduce the cost of entering. I had opened the door more often than I wanted to remember. I'm not trying to lock you out, I said. I know. Have lunch with Leah. I will. And don't ask her to report back on me. I don't. Corinne. All right. We ended the call politely, which is one of the more exhausting ways two people can end a conversation. My chicken was no longer worth reheating. I covered the plate and put it in the refrigerator, where it could become a problem for another day. Before bed, I took the map out of its box. It was heavier than it looked. I leaned it against a dining chair and opened the little packet of pins, red and blue, exactly as promised. There were far more red ones, as if the manufacturer assumed most adventure would already be over by the time a person bought the map. I put a red pin in Illinois, where I had lived my whole life. Then I removed it. The map stayed on the chair. Ruth called the next morning to tell me she had signed me up for pottery. You did what? It's not legally binding. You can't enroll people in activities without permission. I put your email on an interest list. There's a difference. I'm not interested. That sounds like something an interested person says before coffee. The class met in a converted hardware store 3 blocks from the diner. According to Ruth, it was for beginners and people recovering from competence. I'm not artistic. You don't need to be. You make a bowl, and if it's ugly, you say it's organic. Are you going? No. Wet clay makes my hands feel haunted. I agreed to one class mostly to stop her from finding something worse. The instructor was a broad-shouldered woman named Sylvia who wore red glasses and spoke about clay as though it had personal boundaries. Don't force it, she told us. Clay remembers pressure. I nearly left. There were 7 people around the table, all adults with the uneasy expressions of people who had paid to be bad at something. The man beside me introduced himself as Walter and immediately crushed his first piece into what looked like a collapsed lung. "I'm making an ashtray," he said. "Do you smoke?" "No." "Then you're doing very well." My first bowl leaned left. My second leaned in every direction at once. Sylvia said I was gripping too tightly. "I hear that a lot lately," I said. She glanced at me over her red frames. "Then perhaps listen." I liked her less after that, which did not mean she was wrong. By the end of the class, my hands were gray to the wrists, and I had made a small, uneven dish that could hold 3 olives if they agreed not to move. Sylvia put it on a board with the others. "We'll fire these before next week. I didn't say I was coming next week. She wrote my name under the dish. Clay remembers avoidance, too. Does Clay ever mind its own business?" Walter laughed hard enough to damage his ashtray. Outside, I found a text from Leah. A photograph filled the screen. Corinne looked about 30 in it, seated on the hood of Michael's old station wagon with a paper cup in one hand. Her hair was dark and long, and she was laughing at someone outside the frame. Leah had written, "Do you know where this was taken?" I zoomed in. Behind Corinne was a low brick building with a faded green awning. I recognized the place before I recognized the year. A motel near Lake Geneva. Michael had kept the photograph in a shoebox at the back of our closet. Corinne had come with them for one weekend after months away. Leah would later remember the lake, the vending machine that ate Michael's quarters, and a song Corinne played over and over in the car. She would not remember that Corinne left 2 days after they returned. I typed, "Lake Geneva." Leah replied immediately, "What motel?" I gave her the name. "Did Dad take this?" "Yes." A minute passed. "Do you remember why we were there?" I stood on the sidewalk outside the pottery studio while people moved around me. Corinne was at the lunch with her. She could have told Leah why, unless she couldn't, or unless Leah already knew she couldn't. I wrote, "Ask Corinne what she remembers." The typing bubbles appeared, vanished, then returned. "I'm asking you." I looked through the studio window. Sylvia was carrying our misshapen bowls to a shelf, handling each one as though it deserved to survive its maker. "You said I could talk to you," Leah wrote. I rested my clay-streaked hand against the brick wall. "You can. But I'm not going to fill in Corinne's memories for her." Her answer came fast. "It's one question." I read it twice. "So was mine at the dinner," I typed. The bubbles did not appear again. I walked to my car with dried clay tightening over my knuckles. At home, I washed my hands until the water ran clear, but a pale gray line remained beneath one nail. The map still leaned against the chair. I lifted it onto Paula's empty hook and stepped back. It hung slightly crooked. I left it that way. It lasted that way until Paula came over, tilted her head, and said, "Are you trying to make the continental United States slide into Mexico? I like it crooked. You don't like anything crooked." "I'm growing. You're deteriorating." She reached for the frame. I slapped her hand away. "Leave it. You know, rebellion is less impressive when it requires a level." She'd brought brochures for coastal hotels, none of which I had requested. She spread them over my table, covering the note card from my retirement speech, before she noticed it. Paula picked up the little square. "Hardest good thing," she read. I took it from her. "Don't." Her face lost its mischief. "Is that what you didn't say?" "Part of it." I folded the card along its existing creases and put it in the drawer with the takeout menus. "Why are we looking at hotels?" I asked. "Because you have a map and no pins. I have pins. Your map is naked. The pins are in the box. Your map is emotionally naked." Paula wanted to spend 4 days near Lake Michigan in a town with an art museum, a lighthouse, and what she called a respectable number of restaurants. She had already priced 2 rooms because, according to her, sharing one after age 60 was how sisters ended up on true crime programs. "I just retired," I said. "I don't need a vacation from anything. You need a vacation from standing in this house waiting for Leah to call. I'm not waiting. You keep looking at your phone. It has the time on it. There are clocks everywhere. Michael had collected clocks for reasons he never satisfactorily explained. One chimed 12 minutes late, another ran fast, and the brass one over the fireplace had stopped at 4:17 the week after he died. I had left it that way. My phone rang. Paula pointed at me. "Don't injure yourself." It was Adrian. He asked if I was home, then said he was 6 minutes away with a casserole dish. Adrian measured travel in exact amounts because he worked in transportation planning and believed about 10 minutes was a moral failure. "Did I give you a casserole?" I asked. "Last month?" "What was in it?" "Lasagna." "That wasn't a casserole." "I'm not getting between you and the casserole community, Nora." He arrived with the dish wrapped in one of my towels and a paper bag from the bakery near his office. He was tall, soft-spoken, and always looked mildly apologetic for occupying the amount of space his body required. Paula opened the bag. "Those are for Nora," he said. "She doesn't eat almond croissants. I eat almond croissants." "Since when?" "Since one was brought to me." Adrian glanced between us. "Should I come back?" "No," I said. "Yes," Paula said through pastry. He set the casserole dish in my sink. I also came for Leah's green sweater. She thinks she left it in the guest room. It was where she always left it, over the back of the same chair, as if my house had a climate different from the rest of the state. "I'll get it." "I can. I know where it is." Upstairs, I stood in the guest room holding Leah's sweater, longer than necessary. The faint scent of her perfume remained at the collar. On the nightstand was the mystery novel she had been reading during her last visit, a receipt marking page 186. She had planned to finish it the weekend she canceled. I left the book where it was. When I came downstairs, Paula had disappeared, taking 2 hotel brochures and half a croissant with her. Adrian sat at the table beneath the crooked map. "She said she'd call me," I said. She meant from the car. Apparently hotel rates are a developing emergency. I handed him the sweater. He folded it carefully. "Leah's having a hard time." "So am I know." "Does she know?" He looked at the sweater. That was an answer. "I'm not here to take sides," he said. "Nobody who says that has ever followed it with anything neutral." His mouth twitched. "She thinks you're trying to teach her a lesson. I'm trying to stop participating in one." "What lesson?" "That I'm permanent enough to overlook." Adrian rubbed his thumb over the edge of the table. He had been around our family long enough to know which questions were doors and which were stairs. "She doesn't think of you that way. She asked me not to say I raised her." His eyes lifted. "She didn't tell you that?" "She said you disagreed about the speech." "That's a very elegant sentence. I'm sorry. You didn't do it." "No, but I ate the leftover cake." "Then you've suffered enough." He smiled, but his eyes stayed troubled. "Corinne makes her nervous," he said, "even when things are going well." "I know. She checks her phone all the time. If Corinne takes 2 hours to answer, Leah decides she said something wrong. I know that too." "Then you know why she's trying so hard." I sat across from him. "Knowing why someone hurts you doesn't make the hurting imaginary." "I didn't mean that. I know you didn't." He looked up at the map. "That thing is huge. Everyone says that. Are you going somewhere?" "Paula is campaigning." "Go." "You sound like her. God forbid." The words came out before he could stop them. We both stared toward the doorway as if Paula might materialize and strike him. "She's in her car," I said. "You probably have 6 minutes." He laughed, then grew serious again. "The last time Corinne came back, Leah was 28, he said. Did you know she invited her to that promotion dinner?" "Yes. She told me Corinne canceled because she was sick. Her car needed tires." Adrian frowned. "That was the reason?" "That was the reason I heard. She told Leah she had the flu. Maybe the tires had it too." He set the sweater on the chair beside him. "Leah sat outside the restaurant for 40 minutes, he said. She wouldn't go in. I'd never seen her look like that. I had. After everyone went home, I found her in her car with her forehead resting against the steering wheel. She was 28, wearing a new gray suit, promoted to a job she had worked 6 years to earn. I sat in the passenger seat until the windows fogged. She kept saying, 'I knew better,' as though hope were a mistake educated people should outgrow. "I drove her home," I said. "She never told me that. There are a lot of things she doesn't tell either of us." Adrian picked up the sweater. "She's afraid if she does this wrong, Corinne will leave again, and she's not afraid I will. No." He said it simply, almost as praise. I looked at the folded green sweater in his hands. "That's the problem, Adrian." He left without defending her again. At the door, he kissed my cheek and said the croissant was technically from both of them. I did not ask whether Leah knew he had brought it. She called that evening. "Adrian told me he saw you. He retrieved the sweater. He told you about my promotion dinner." "Yes." That wasn't his story to tell. No, it was mine. "You never said you were there. You knew I was there. I knew you drove me home. I didn't know you sat with me before. You were upset. That's not a reason to hide it." I almost laughed at the precision of the complaint. Would remembering it have helped you? That should have been my choice. All right, you always do that. Do what? Decide which parts of my own life I can handle. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Are we discussing what I left out now? She caught the parallel. I heard it in the sudden change in her breathing. "I'm not going to apologize for wanting Corinne in my life. I haven't asked you to. But you keep bringing everything back to what she did wrong. No, Leah. You keep asking questions that have answers, like the lake picture, like why you were there, like why she wasn't in the photographs from the following months. I can either answer honestly, answer incompletely, or tell you to ask her. You object to all three. I wanted a memory, not an indictment. Then let Corinne give you the memory she has. She barely remembers that weekend. That isn't my fault. She said she was going through a terrible time. I'm sure she was." The words came out too gently to sound sincere. Leah sighed. She found a box of old photographs. Good. There are only a few of me. I closed my eyes. Corinne had taken photographs with enthusiasm and kept them with less consistency. Michael had saved everything. Ticket stubs, birthday cards, blurry pictures of parking lots because he thought the light looked interesting. "I was hoping I could go through Dad's boxes," Leah said. "They're your family photographs, too. So I can come over." "Yes." With Corinne? There it was. I opened my eyes and looked at the map. "I'd rather you came alone." "Why?" "Because some of those boxes contain Michael's personal things, and because I don't want to spend an afternoon watching Corinne rediscover a life she left in my closet. That sounds like punishment. It sounds like my house. She's trying to understand what she missed, and I'm not ready to guide the tour." Leah was silent. Then, very calmly, she said, "You told me I didn't have to choose. You don't. But every time I try to include her, you put up another wall." "No, I put up one wall, you keep walking along it and acting surprised that it continues." "That's a very clever line. I'm not trying to be clever. You never think you are." The call ended with no plan for the photographs. I stood beneath the map, staring at the single picture hook that held its weight. One small piece of metal hidden behind the frame, doing all the work without appearing in the image. My second pottery class was less disastrous than the first. Sylvia handed me the little dish I had made, now glazed a cloudy blue. "It survived," I said. "Most things do," she replied. "They just don't come out symmetrical." Walter had made another ashtray. He still did not smoke. I signed up for the rest of the month. After class, I called Paula. "Book the hotel," I told her. There was a brief silence followed by rapid tapping. "Already did." "You said you were waiting for my answer." "I was waiting to tell you it was non-refundable." I should have objected. Instead, I opened the packet of pins when I got home and pushed a blue one into the small town on the lake. The map was still crooked, but the pin held straight. The blue pin lasted 3 days before Leah noticed it. She came alone on Sunday carrying 2 coffees and a portable scanner in a canvas bag. She paused in the dining room, looked up at the map, and touched the pin with one fingertip. "You're going somewhere?" "Paula and I are spending a few days by the lake." "When?" "Next week." "You didn't tell me. We haven't been talking much. You could have texted." "I could have." Her expression tightened. She turned to the little blue dish on the table instead. What's this? A dish. I can see that. Then pottery has finally made me a clear communicator. She picked it up and examined the uneven rim. You made it? No, I stole it from a talented person. I like it. It holds 3 olives. That specific? 4 creates a structural concern. She smiled. For a moment, the room became ordinary again. Leah handed me one of the coffees. She had remembered that I took 1 packet of sugar, not the artificial sweetener Corinne used. The awareness of that small fact almost undid me more efficiently than any apology could have. We sat at the kitchen table. I don't want to fight today, she said. Neither do I. I'm sorry I hung up on you. I'm sorry I was clever. You were. I know. That made her smile again. She reached across the table and touched my wrist where Michael's watch usually sat. I had stopped wearing it every day after the retirement dinner, though I had not decided why. Can we look at the pictures? She asked. Yes. And if we find some Corinne can use, can I take them? You can scan whatever you want. The originals stay here. Her hand withdrew. We haven't even looked yet. The rule does not depend on how flattering they are. It's an album, Mama, not an evidence locker. I didn't call it one. Then why are you acting like everything needs to be preserved under glass? Because some of it belongs to me. They're pictures of my family, so you can have copies. She looked toward the scanner bag. That isn't the same. No, it's a copy. I know what a copy is. Then we're making progress. She stared into her coffee. I had lasted less than 5 minutes before becoming clever again. I'm sorry, I said. Bring the scanner. The boxes were in the back of my bedroom closet beneath 2 folded quilts and a bag containing shoes I had not worn since Michael's funeral. I carried 1 box downstairs. Leah took the other and followed me into the dining room. Michael had believed photographs should be stored in shoe boxes because photo albums imposed a false narrative of order. This was something he said after I bought him 3 albums and he failed to use any of them. We spread the pictures across the table. There were hundreds. Michael beside grills, cars, hotel signs, damaged appliances, and 1 enormous ball of twine we had driven 40 miles out of our way to see. He photographed food after taking the first bite. He photographed people while they were talking. He once used an entire roll of film on a raccoon that had gotten into the garage, producing 24 nearly identical pictures of darkness with 2 bright dots in the center. Leah held one up. Is that supposed to be me? That's the raccoon. Oh, you're in the next envelope. Comforting. The ease between us returned in small pieces. We found photographs from Leah's college graduation, her first apartment, the office party where she met Adrian. In one, Michael had captured Adrian in the background trying to open a bottle of wine with a vegetable peeler. I still think that would have worked, Leah said. He cut his thumb. Progress has a cost. She scanned that one. We found Corinne slowly. Not because I had hidden her photographs, though Leah watched me as if she expected to discover that I had. There simply were not many. Corinne laughing on the station wagon. Corinne sitting cross-legged on Michael's first apartment floor. Corinne in a white blouse at a restaurant, looking over her shoulder as if someone had called her name. A much later photograph showed her and Leah at a cafe when Leah was 21. The date on the back was in my handwriting because Leah had given the picture to Michael, and he asked me to label it. Leah rubbed her thumb along the edge. I forgot about this lunch. You were upset afterward. Why? I waited. She looked up. You're allowed to answer. She asked to borrow money. Leah frowned. That's not why I was upset. No, you were upset because she left before dessert after you said no. I don't remember that. I do. Her shoulders stiffened. Of course you do. What does that mean? You remember every bad thing she ever did. I remember good things, too. Name one. The challenge came so quickly that she must have been carrying it into the house. I picked up the Lake Geneva photograph. She made your father laugh, I said. Not politely. She could make him laugh so hard he had to leave the room. Leah looked at me. She brought him soup when his mother died, I continued. She stayed 2 nights even though they weren't together anymore. Once, when you were grown and too angry to take her call, she sent you a birthday card every week for a month because she couldn't decide which apology sounded true. I never got those. Michael kept them because you told him to throw them away. He kept them? They may be in the other box. Leah lowered her eyes to the photograph. Why didn't you tell me? Because you said you didn't want them. I might have changed my mind. You might have. She waited, perhaps hoping I would offer to search. I did not. Not because I wanted to withhold the cards, but because I needed her to ask for what she wanted without turning my anticipation into another obligation. Can we look for them? She said. Yes. The cards were beneath a stack of appliance manuals Michael had kept for appliances we no longer owned. 4 envelopes, 1 for each week, all addressed in Corinne's handwriting. Leah did not open them. She set them together beside the scanner. These should go in the album, she said. They're yours. And these pictures. Scan them. Mama. The cards belong to you. The original photographs stay here. Why? Some have your father's writing on the back. Some are the only copies I have. Corinne would take care of them. This is not about whether she owns a clean, dry house. She wants something real. A scanned photograph is real. You know what I mean. I did. That was the problem. Leah gathered the photographs of Corinne into a neat stack. She has almost nothing from those years. I'm sorry. You have boxes. Because Michael kept them. And now Michael's gone. The words struck the table between us. Leah's eyes widened. I didn't mean, I know. No, I mean these aren't only yours because you happen to end up with the house. I sat back. It has nothing to do with the house. Then what does it have to do with? Your father put these pictures in boxes. I labeled them. I moved them out of the basement after the pipe leaked. I kept them when I could barely open the closet without smelling his shirts. They are part of the life he and I had. And Corinne is part of his life too. Yes, but she doesn't get a photograph. She gets a copy. Leah pushed her chair away from the table. Do you hear how possessive you sound? I hear myself saying no. You're holding on to pieces of her past because it gives you control. That's not fair. Neither is deciding that she deserves reproductions while you keep the originals. I looked at the photograph on top of the stack. Corinne on the hood of the station wagon, laughing toward Michael behind the camera. I had not been there. That moment belonged to them, yet the photograph had spent 3 decades in my closet. For a second, I wondered if Leah was right. Then I turned it over. In Michael's handwriting were the date, the motel name, and 1 line. C laughed because I dropped room key and coffee. I ran my finger over the faded ink. I'm keeping this, I said. Leah began putting the scanner back in its bag. You don't need to leave. I said I didn't want to fight. Then stop asking me to prove I'm generous by giving things away. She zipped the bag. She's trying to make an album of the years she lost. She didn't lose them, Leah. The instant I said it, I wished I could pull the sentence back. Leah went still. She lost things too. Yes. She was depressed. She was ashamed. Dad shut her out. Your father stopped allowing her to arrive without warning. That is not the same as shutting her out. You always defend him. He stayed. And there it is. What? The scoreboard. I stood. There was no scoreboard. There were days. Whoever was there had to live them. She picked up the 4 birthday cards. At least these are mine. Yes. She put them in her bag without opening them. At the front door, she turned back toward the dining room. The map is crooked. I know. Do you want me to fix it? No. Her face changed. Not anger this time. Sadness, perhaps, though I was no longer certain I could read my daughter without reading what I feared. I don't know how to have both of you, she said. The honesty of it took all the defenses out of me. You don't have us, I said. You have a relationship with each of us. They don't need to match. They'll never be equal. No, you say that like you've won. I say it because equality isn't available. Corinne can give you something I can't. I can give you something she can't. If you keep trying to make the histories equal, one of them has to become a lie. She looked toward the photographs scattered across the table. You could make this easier? So could you. She left with the cards and no photographs. Corinne called while Paula and I were checking into the hotel. Our room faced a brick wall and an industrial vent that turned on every 40 seconds with the sound of a truck sighing. Paula opened the curtains, studied the view, and said, "Nature is magnificent." I took the call in the hallway. "I didn't ask her for the originals," Corinne said before saying hello. "I didn't think you had. She told me you refused." I did. But the album was Leah's idea. I would have been fine with scans. Have you told her that? I tried. She thinks I'm saying it because I'm embarrassed. Are you? Yes. The answer came without decoration. She wants to give me a history, Corinne said. I think she believes if she puts enough photographs in a book, I'll stop feeling like I missed it. Will you? No. The vent sighed through the wall. I'm not going to make her stop, Corinne said. I don't get to reject the way she's trying to forgive me. Forgiveness is not supposed to require props. Maybe not for you. I looked toward the end of the hallway where Paula was waving a room service menu at me. What does that mean? You had years to become real to her, Corinne said. I have lunch receipts and 4 old photographs. You had the same years. I know, there was no self-pity in it. That made the truth harder to use against her. Enjoy your trip, she said. I mean that. When I returned to the room, Paula had found a different hotel online and was threatening to relocate us. We've been here 9 minutes, I said. 8 of them have had a truck breathing through the wall. I laughed. Not politely. Hard enough that I had to sit on the bed. The next morning, we walked beside the lake in matching hotel robes under our coats because Paula had forgotten to pack a sweater and convinced me dignity was an outdated tax on women. My phone stayed in my pocket. When we got home 4 days later, I removed the blue pin from the map and replaced it with a red one. Then I put the blue pin in the art museum's town farther up the coast. I did not ask anyone whether I was allowed to want another place. The red pin was still under my thumb when Leah left a voicemail. Call me when you get home, she said. It's about Dad. She did not sound frightened, but the word Dad made every old alarm in my body wake at once. I called before taking off my coat. What happened? Nothing happened. You said it was about your father. It is. Then don't open with that voice. What voice? The one people use before saying a test came back. She exhaled. The anniversary is next Thursday. I know. Of course I knew. 8 years had not taught that date to pass quietly. It announced itself through the weather, the angle of the afternoon light, and the sudden appearance of Michael's handwriting in places I had seen 100 times. I want to have dinner here this year, Leah said. We usually had it at my house. Leah and Adrian came after work. I made Michael's favorite meal, which he called the beige banquet. Smothered pork chops, mashed potatoes, and canned peas. He insisted tasted better than fresh ones because fresh peas had too much ambition. We ate too much, told the same stories, and complained about him until missing him became survivable. At your house, I repeated, Adrian thinks it might be easier for you not to cook. Did Adrian say that? He agreed when I said it. That wasn't my question. Mama, I put my suitcase on the dining chair. I'm listening. I thought we could make Dad's dinner here, and I want to invite Corinne. There it was, set down carefully between us. Did you already invite her? I asked if she was free. That is an invitation wearing a hat. She loved him too. I know. Do you? I closed my eyes. 4 days away had not made me patient enough for this. Yes, Leah. I know your biological mother once loved your father. You don't have to call her that. What should I call her? You know what I mean. Again, I did. I looked at the map, at the new red pin. It seemed absurdly cheerful. Have the dinner, I said. You'll come? Yes. She went quiet, perhaps because I had not made her fight for it. I want you there, she said. I'm glad. And I want it to be nice. So do I. Without tension. That depends on whether you plan to serve wine. I'm serious, so am I. Your aunt is attending. I haven't invited Aunt Paula. Then you have improved your odds. Leah laughed despite herself. The sound loosened something in both of us. Will you send me the recipe? She asked. You've watched me make it. I watched Dad change a tire, too. That doesn't mean I retained anything. The recipe is in the wooden box beside the stove. Can you take a picture? Yes. And the gravy. You do something to it. I cook it. You add something at the end. Salt. Mama, I'll send instructions. Thank you. We ended more gently than we had begun. The recipe box stuck in its usual way. I had to pull the drawer beneath it open half an inch before the lid would clear the cabinet. Michael's mother had written the original recipe on a yellow index card in slanted blue ink. Over the years, I had added notes in the margins. More onions, less broth. Do not trust M's estimate of pepper. Beneath it were 2 stained cards for mashed potatoes and a clipping about how to remove red wine from upholstery, which had nothing to do with dinner, but had migrated into the box after a Christmas incident involving Paula. I photographed both sides of the pork chop card. Then I opened the drawer for a pen and saw my folded retirement speech beside the takeout menus. Hardest good thing showed through the crease. I closed the drawer. Leah called while I was typing out the gravy instructions. Is that Mom Bell's handwriting? She asked. Yes, she gave you the recipe? She gave it to Michael. He gave it to me after he nearly set a dish towel on fire. I thought Corinne taught him to make those pork chops. Why? She remembers eating them with him. I'm sure she did. Your grandmother's recipe existed before either of us. Oh, 1 syllable. Carrying disappointment she would probably deny. You can eat food without inventing it, I said. I didn't say she invented it. No. She thought maybe they made it together. Maybe they did. Did Dad ever tell you? No. You would have remembered. Probably. Leah was silent. I softened my voice. There can be things I don't know. I know, and things Corinne remembers that I don't. I know that too. But what Leah wanted was not 2 imperfect sets of memories. She wanted them fitted together without gaps, like pieces from the same puzzle. She had not yet accepted that some pieces belonged to different pictures. I sent the instructions. An hour later, Corinne called. Leah says you use Worcestershire sauce. I do. How much? A little. What is a little? Until it smells right. She groaned. That isn't a measurement. It is in my kitchen. I'm standing in mine. I pictured her holding the bottle over a saucepan, though the dinner was still days away. Start with a teaspoon, I said. You can add more. Thank you. You're practicing? She's nervous. Leah is? She wants the dinner to feel right. It already had a way of feeling right. I know. The admission was so quiet I almost missed it. Corinne continued. She told me you always used Michael's blue platter. It cracked 2 years ago. She wants to know what music you played, whatever Adrian chose. Did you light candles? Only when Paula came. She says overhead lights reveal betrayal. Corinne laughed. What stories do you usually tell? She asked. I sat down at the kitchen table. Is Leah there? No. Did she ask you to call me? Not exactly. Corinne. She wants me to say something about Michael. Then say something. I don't know what belongs at that dinner. The truth would be a start. That's easy for you to say. No, it isn't. She became quiet. I turned the little blue pottery dish between my hands. Talk about the soup, I said. What soup? When Michael's mother died, you brought him soup and stayed 2 nights. How do you know about that? He told me. Corinne took a breath. I'd forgotten. Well, there you are. But that isn't what Leah wants. What does she want? She wants a story from when we were all together. We were never all together. I know. The words settled between us with less violence than I expected. She keeps asking what it was like before, Corinne said. I think she means before everything went wrong, but I don't know which wrong thing she means. There wasn't one day when the music changed. I remember that. Then tell her. I don't want to ruin the dinner. I pressed my thumb into the uneven center of the dish. That's what she said to me before the retirement speech. Corinne did not respond. I waited. What did she ask you not to say? She asked at last. This time, I told her. The sentence sounded smaller over the phone than it had in the restaurant hallway. Please don't say you raised me. 6 words, none of them loud. Oh, Corinne said. That's all? What would you like me to say? I don't know. I didn't know she asked that. I believe you. I knew she was worried about my feelings. I could tell she'd said something to you, but I didn't know it was that. I believe that too. Corinne inhaled shakily. I wouldn't have asked her to, but you stood up and called her our daughter. She is our daughter. Yes. Am I not allowed to say it? That isn't what I'm asking. I know you raised her. The words were private, delivered to me alone in my kitchen, where Leah could not hear them. I set down the dish. Does she know you know? Of course she knows. I'm not sure she does. Corinne's voice sharpened. You think I'm enjoying this? Are you? No. Too fast. Then more quietly, not the way you mean. How do I mean? I don't know. You keep saying that after answering. She let out a tired breath. At the dinner, people looked at me as if I belonged. I'm ashamed that it felt good. There was the nearest thing to honesty either of us had managed. You did belong, I said, just not in the way they assumed. I didn't correct them. No. Neither did you. I was asked not to. I know that now. The refrigerator hummed behind me. I could hear the faint tick of the brass clock in the living room, though its hands had not moved in years. I'm sorry, Corinne said. This apology was not safe. I could feel the difference. Thank you. I don't know what to do with Leah. She isn't something to do with. You know what I mean. I do. I'm tired of knowing what everyone means. She laughed softly. Then she asked, should I come Thursday? The answer I wanted to give was easy. The answer I gave cost more. Yes. Are you sure? No. But Michael is dead either way. That sounds like something he would say. It is. She was quiet for a moment. I miss him, she said. I know. It was the first time I had said those words to her and meant only what they meant. At pottery, I made a small pitcher that leaned backward as if resisting bad news. Sylvia showed me how to pull a handle from a coil of clay. Support it from beneath, she said. Otherwise, the weight tears away from the body. Does clay have any lessons that aren't personal? No. Walter raised his hand. Mine says, don't make another ashtray. His 4th ashtray had collapsed before firing. Sylvia suggested a spoon rest. He said he did not believe in surrender. When I got home, a message from Leah waited on my phone. Can you bring one picture of Dad Thursday? Corinne wants to see the one from the lake. I looked toward the boxes still stacked beside the dining table. Not that one, I wrote. Why? Because it is a picture of her, not him. She wants it there. Then she can bring the scan you made. I didn't scan it. I looked at the original, still lying on top of its stack. Michael's handwriting showed faintly through the back. After a moment, I selected a photograph of him alone at the lake, standing ankle-deep in the water with his pants rolled badly and one hand raised against the camera. He looked irritated, amused, and alive. I took it to the copy shop and made 3 prints, one for Leah, one for Corinne, one for me. On Thursday evening, I placed 2 prints in separate envelopes, put the original back in its box, and drove to my daughter's house carrying Michael in triplicate. Adrian opened the door with a wooden spoon in one hand and a dish towel over his shoulder. You're early. I'm 4 minutes late. That's early in this house. Behind him, something hissed in the kitchen. Is that dinner? Technically. He stepped aside. The house smelled of onions, hot oil, and the particular panic of a recipe being followed by 3 people with separate opinions. Leah called from the kitchen. Is that Mama? Corinne called at the same time. "Don't let her come in here." Adrian lowered his voice. "They're having a gravy event. I was not informed of the dress code." He took my coat. I carried the 2 envelopes into the living room, where Leah had set a framed photograph of Michael on the mantel. He was wearing the brown sport coat and squinting into sunlight, one hand lifted as if objecting to being photographed. Beside the frame burned a candle that smelled like cedar. The furniture had been rearranged to make the dining table the center of the room. Leah's house was always neat, but that evening it looked managed. 4 place settings, 4 cloth napkins, 4 glasses aligned with the precision of a military cemetery, 5 plates. I counted again. 4 chairs, 5 plates. The extra plate sat on the sideboard in front of a small vase of rosemary. Leah came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands. "You found it." "What?" "The picture." I held up the envelopes. "Not the one you asked for." Her smile weakened. "You made copies." "Yes. You said you'd bring 1 picture." "I brought 2. "That isn't what I meant, I know." Adrian appeared behind her with a corkscrew. "Wine?" "Yes," we both said. Corinne leaned through the kitchen doorway. She wore an apron printed with red tomatoes and had a streak of flour near one eyebrow. "Nora, I swear the gravy looked right 10 minutes ago. Gravy lacks loyalty. I followed your instructions. Then it's Leah's fault." "Thank you," Leah said. "You're welcome." Corinne laughed and disappeared back into the kitchen. Leah took the envelopes from me. I had written her name on one and Corinne's on the other. She opened hers, slid out the photograph, and stared at it. Michael stood in the lake with his rolled pants sagging around his ankles, looking toward whoever held the camera, Corinne, presumably. The water behind him flashed white in the sun. "I don't remember him ever looking this young," Leah said. "He was 41. "That's young. It wasn't when I was 36. She traced his outline without touching the paper. "Did Corinne take it?" "I assume so." "Then why can't she have the original?" The question came softly, almost without accusation, which made it harder to resist. "Because your father wrote on the back, and I want to keep it. What did he write? Where he was? The date? That's all? That's enough." She turned the print over. The blank white back seemed to disappoint her. "I could write it for you," I said. "No, it's fine." "It clearly isn't." "I said it's fine." The kitchen hissed again. Adrian raised his wine glass to emotional transparency. Leah gave him a look. "What?" he said. "I work in transportation. We toast infrastructure. Corinne saved him by calling for help." The gravy had broken. A thin layer of grease floated on top while pale flour clung to the bottom of the pan in stubborn islands. The pork chops waited in a blue ceramic dish that was not Michael's cracked platter, but looked chosen to resemble it. Corinne held out the whisk. I panicked. "I can see that." "She added more flour," Leah said. "You told me it was thin." "It was. So you buried it?" "I thought it would dissolve." "Flour doesn't dissolve because you believe in it." Corinne handed me the whisk. For 1 second, all 3 of us froze. This was exactly the sort of invisible correction I had said I would stop making. The rescue performed in the kitchen so someone else could carry the finished dish to the table. I looked at Leah. She looked back. "I can tell you how," I said. Corinne set the whisk down. "Tell me." "Pour the gravy into that bowl. Leave the burned flour in the pan." "It's burned?" "It's becoming historical." Adrian moved the bowl closer. Corinne poured. I directed her through heating fresh broth, whisking in small spoonfuls of the damaged gravy and adding Worcestershire sauce. "How much?" she asked. "Until it smells right." She leaned over the pan and sniffed. "That still means nothing. Now you understand why there was no amount on the card." Leah stood beside the stove with her arms folded. "Can we just taste it?" "Not with that spoon," Adrian said. "I used it on the raw pork." 3 adults moved backward at once. "Finally," I said, "a family instinct we all share." The tension loosened. Even Leah laughed. Corinne finished the gravy herself. It was too salty and slightly lumpy, but it held together. She tasted it and looked at me for judgment. "It's gravy," I said. Her face fell. "Good gravy," I added. "You're terrible at praise. I worked at a public library. We were trained to ration excitement." At the table, Leah placed the 5th plate on the empty chair beneath Michael's photograph. "We never did that," I said. "I know. I wanted to." She poured a small amount of wine into the glass beside it. Adrian looked at me over the candle. I sat down. It was not how I would have remembered Michael, but he was not mine alone to remember. The pork chops were a little dry. The potatoes had too much butter, which Michael would have considered impossible. The canned peas were exactly as unpleasant as tradition required. Adrian took one bite and said, "These peas taste resigned." "That's why Michael liked them," I said. "He respected a vegetable that knew its limitations." Corinne smiled. "He hated zucchini." "He hated the word zucchini," Leah said. He thought it sounded smug. "He said that about arugula," I corrected. "He said it about both," Adrian said. "The man contained layers. We ate. We told stories. At first, the stories were safe. Michael getting stuck in a deck chair. Michael insisting on fixing a toaster and removing 3 screws that apparently served no purpose until the toaster caught fire. Michael refusing GPS instructions because the woman's voice sounded personally disappointed. Corinne listened more than she spoke. When she laughed, it was at things she recognized, not things she wanted to claim. Leah kept watching her. "Tell the soup story," I said. Corinne looked startled. "Now? There is soup." "There was," she said. "A long time ago." She put down her fork. "When Michael's mother died, we weren't together. We were barely speaking. But I heard about it from a mutual friend, so I made chicken soup and took it to his apartment." "You made soup?" Leah asked. "I used to cook. I know, you know me as a person who orders lunch." Leah smiled, embarrassed. Corinne continued, "Your father didn't want to let me in. He said he was fine, which meant he had eaten crackers for 2 days and slept in a chair." "That sounds right," I said. "I stayed that night. And the next one. We didn't talk about us. I cleaned his kitchen. He complained that I moved the can opener." "You always moved things," I said. "I was improving them. Michael's can opener remained in the same drawer for 27 years after that." Corinne smiled at the table. "I thought I remembered exactly where it belonged. You remembered where you wanted it." "That too." Leah's eyes had filled. "You always knew what Dad needed," she said. Corinne's smile disappeared. "No," she said. "I knew that time. You knew him. I did. But knowing somebody isn't the same as staying close enough to notice every need." Leah reached for her wine. "I wasn't making a larger statement." "I know," Corinne said gently. The correction sat between them. I had not placed it there, but Leah looked at me anyway. I cut another piece of pork chop. After dinner, she brought out a small chocolate cake. Michael had preferred vanilla but believed chocolate cake was more serious, so he ordered it for occasions he thought mattered. Leah had remembered that detail correctly. We moved to the living room with dessert. Corinne opened her envelope and held the lake photograph beneath the lamp. "I took this," she said. "I thought you might have." He stepped into the water to retrieve my sunglasses. Those look like reading glasses in his shirt pocket. He brought the wrong pair. Leah laughed. "That is such a dad thing. He was furious with me. He looks amused. He was both." Corinne turned the picture over and saw the blank back. "What did Michael write on the original?" she asked. I told her. She repeated the words softly, including the part about the room key falling into her coffee. "I didn't remember that," she said. Leah touched her shoulder. "Now you do." "No." Now I know he remembered it. The distinction made Leah's hand fall away. "You don't have to qualify everything," she said. "I'm not." "Yes, you are. Every time you say something good, you immediately explain why it doesn't count." Corinne looked at me, then back at Leah. "I don't want to pretend. Nobody is asking you to pretend." The candle on the mantel popped. Adrian stood. "More coffee?" No one answered, so he collected cups anyway. Leah took the photograph from Corinne and placed it beside Michael's framed portrait. "I remember that trip. You remember the motel vending machine, I said, and Dad threatening to take it apart. He did take it apart. Corinne laughed. He used a butter knife. That was at home, I said. No, he did it at the motel too, Corinne said. The manager came out in his bathrobe. Leah looked delighted. See? You remember? A vending machine. You remember being there? Yes. And the song in the car? Corinne's face went blank. The one you played over and over, Leah said. It was a woman singing. Dad complained about it. I don't know. You must remember. I don't. Leah looked at me. I kept my eyes on my cake. Mama, what? What was the song? I don't know. You said you remembered the trip. I remember hearing about the song. Dad told you? You did. What was it? I don't remember the name. That was true. I remembered Leah humming it years later, trying to rebuild a melody around a feeling. I remembered Michael guessing 3 wrong singers. I remembered Corinne's name hanging over the conversation like weather. Leah leaned back. Fine. Leah, Adrian said from the kitchen. I said fine. She stood and went to the dining table for more wine, though her glass was half full. Corinne folded her copy of the photograph into the envelope. You don't need to put it away, Leah said. I don't want cake on it. Nobody's going to spill cake. I spill things. That isn't why. Corinne set the envelope in her purse. The rest of dessert passed in brittle politeness. Adrian did an imitation of Michael arguing with a hotel clerk that continental breakfast should include at least one food shaped like a continent. I laughed. Corinne did too. Leah smiled without showing her teeth. When the candle burned low, she stood and looked at the 5th place setting. Do you remember the year the power went out? She asked. I knew immediately which night she meant. Leah had been 26 and living with us for 3 months after leaving a job she hated. A winter storm knocked out electricity halfway through dinner. I lit every candle in the house. Michael dragged the grill onto the back porch, and we ate pork chops wearing coats while smoke came through the screen door. Leah looked at Corinne. You put candles everywhere, she said. Dad almost set the porch on fire trying to cook. Corinne's brow creased. Leah, she said carefully, that wasn't me. The room went still. That was Nora. Leah stared at her. I know, she said. Corinne's brow stayed furrowed. You just said I did it. I mixed up the story. You were looking at me. Because I was telling you. You called me Mom. Leah's face flushed. I call both of you Mom sometimes, not when we were in the same room. Adrian set the coffee pot down without pouring. It was one memory, Leah said. I attached the wrong person. That happens. Corinne glanced at me. I had not moved. I don't think that's all that happened, she said. Of course you don't. What does that mean? It means you've been talking to her. Leah, I said. No, I want to know. When did the 2 of you become a team? We didn't. You called her about the photographs. She told you what I asked at the dinner. Now you're correcting me in front of everyone. There are 4 people here, Adrian said gently. Thank you, Adrian. That makes it private. I wasn't saying that. Corinne put both hands in her lap. I corrected the story because it wasn't mine. You could have let it go. And then what? Let Nora sit there while you gave me her life? It was a blackout dinner, not her life. The words landed with a small, clean sound. I stood and carried my plate to the kitchen. Behind me, Leah said, Mama, that isn't what I meant. I put the plate beside the sink. The gravy had hardened in a pale ring. Michael's empty glass remained on the table, the wine untouched. Nora, Corinne said. I'm getting my coat. Leah followed me into the hall. You're leaving? Yes. Because I confused a memory? No. Then why? I took my coat from the closet. My hands had begun to shake, so I concentrated on finding the sleeve. This is what you do, Leah said. You make one quiet gesture, and everybody else has to understand the judgment behind it. I'm putting on a coat. You know exactly what you're doing. That's more than I can say for you. She flinched. I regretted it. I did not take it back. Adrian stood in the dining room doorway, uncertain whether to come closer. Corinne remained on the sofa. She looked less like a mother than a guest who had accidentally opened the wrong bedroom door. Leah lowered her voice. "Can we please talk in the kitchen? We've talked in the kitchen, not tonight. We talked there when I showed Corinne how to fix the gravy so your dinner could look effortless. Nobody said it was effortless. You're missing the point. No, you keep moving the point." I buttoned my coat. The point at the retirement dinner was that Corinne's feelings were fragile. Then the point was that photographs had to feel authentic. Tonight the point is that an inaccurate story is too small to matter. It was small. To you. You know I know you were there that night. I know you knew until you needed Corinne to be. She crossed her arms. "You think I'm trying to replace you. I think you're trying to replace what happened. Why would I do that? Because you want her now, and the truth keeps making you feel foolish for wanting her." The color left her face. Adrian said my name in warning. Leah looked at him. "Don't." I didn't say anything. You were about to. I was about to ask everybody to sit down. I don't want to sit down. Neither did I. The candle near Michael's picture guttered and went out. A thread of smoke curled toward the mantel. Corinne rose. "This is my fault." "No," Leah said immediately. "Yes, no, don't do that. Don't take all the blame and use it as an exit." Corinne stopped. The sentence belonged to more years than that evening. "I'm not leaving," she said. "Good." I said the memory wasn't mine. That isn't abandoning you. I didn't call it abandonment. You don't have to call everything what it is. Leah turned away as if struck. There it was, the surprise none of us had prepared for. Corinne refusing rescue. Corinne staying in the uncomfortable room instead of accepting the beautiful role Leah had made for her. I opened the front door. Cold air came in around my ankles. Leah followed me onto the porch and pulled the door nearly shut behind her. She had no coat. The porch light made the fine hairs on her arms stand up. "Are you really walking out over a story I got wrong?" "No." "What then?" "I'm walking out because you keep needing me to disappear so she won't. That's dramatic. It doesn't feel dramatic. It feels repetitive. You're not disappearing. You're at every table. You're in every photograph. You have every memory. I have the ones I lived, and you guard them like property because you keep trying to give them away." Her eyes filled, but she did not cry. I wanted one dinner where we could all miss Dad together. So did I. You came ready to be offended. I came with a photograph for each of you. A copy. Yes, Leah. A copy. Your father's handwriting stays with me. You always get the final word because you stayed. I looked at her standing barefoot on the cold porch, furious and wounded, and still somehow waiting for me to save her from both. "No," I said. Staying was not a speech. It was just what I did the next day. She hugged her arms around herself. "If you leave now, don't call me tomorrow and act like nothing happened. I wasn't planning to. That isn't what I meant. I know." I walked to my car. She remained on the porch until I pulled away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Adrian come out with her coat and settle it around her shoulders. She let him. At home, the map looked absurdly hopeful. I turned on the dining room light, removed my shoes, and stood beneath it. One red pin, one blue, evidence of a life in motion or the beginning of a craft project nobody would finish. Michael's photograph watched from beside the lamp. Not the lake picture. The one in the brown sport coat, permanently unimpressed. "You could have taught her to apologize," I told him. His expression did not change. "You could have taught me, too." I opened the drawer beside the stove and took out the folded retirement note card. I unfolded it on the table. Radiator, 3 apartments, hardest good thing. For the first time, I noticed what I had not written. No grocery lists. No medical calls, no nights in fogged cars, no record of the ordinary hours because I had never expected to need proof. I folded the card again and placed it in the little blue pottery dish. My phone lit up. Adrian. She's home. I'm giving her space. You okay? I typed, yes. Then changed it to, no, but I'm home. He replied with a heart, which was unusual for Adrian. He generally texted as if punctuation charged by the ounce. A second message appeared from Corinne. I'm sorry. I turned the phone face down. Paula called at 9:12, which meant someone had told her. Adrian would not have. Leah might if anger overcame strategy. Corinne had Paula's number from some previous attempt at family inclusion. I answered with, do not go to Leah's house. I'm in pajamas. You own a coat. Corinne called me. Why? She asked whether you were home. How did she know I would answer you? She didn't. She sounded upset. Everyone is upset. Well, I'm not. I'm furious. It's much more energizing. I sat at the table. I said something cruel to Leah. Did you call her a criminal? No. Did you insult her home decor? No. Did you mention those dining chairs make everyone look like they're awaiting a dental procedure? Paula. Then cruel may be overstating it. I said she wants Corinne because the truth makes her feel foolish for wanting her. Paula was quiet. Was it true? She asked. Yes. Then was it necessary? I don't know. That's usually the question. I left. Good. It didn't feel good. You keep confusing boundaries with spa treatments. I rubbed my forehead. Please don't call her. I wasn't going to. Or Adrian. No, or Corinne. A pause. You already did. She called me first. What did you say? That Leah has spent years asking you to be the floor and is shocked you object to being walked on. Paula. I was upset. You just said you were furious. Fury is upset with posture. I put my head down on the table and laughed despite myself. The sound became something close to a sob before I could stop it. Paula heard. I'm coming over, she said. No, I can be there in 20 minutes. I don't want you to. Another silence. All right, she said. But I'm leaving my phone on. It is always on. That was comfort. I know. I did not sleep in my bed. I fell asleep on the sofa with the television playing a home renovation program at low volume. At 4 a.m, a cheerful couple screamed because someone had shown them a pantry. Leah did not call the next day. Neither did I. Corinne left a voicemail in the afternoon. I shouldn't have let the dinner get that far, she said. I thought correcting the story would help. I'm beginning to understand that nothing helps when everyone is correcting a different thing. She asked me to call. I did not. At pottery, I pulled the handle off my pitcher. It came away in my hand so cleanly that the class went silent. Sylvia inspected the break. Not enough scoring. I supported it. You supported the weight. You didn't roughen the surfaces so they could bond. Walter looked at his newest ashtray. This class is hostile. Sylvia handed me a small pointed tool. You can reattach it. I thought Clay remembered. It also forgives if you do the work before it dries. I liked you better when you were selling classes. I never sold you anything. That's true. Ruth did. I scored the clay, added slip, and pressed the handle back into place. It remained attached, though a visible seam ran along both ends. The following Sunday arrived without Leah and Adrian. I did not cook chicken. I heated soup from a carton and ate it at the table beneath the map. At 7:30, the hour Leah often called, I carried my bowl to the sink and left my phone in the other room. The silence continued. I attended pottery. I met Ruth for lunch. Paula and I argued over whether our next trip required reservations. I began clearing one shelf of Michael's dental floss and stopped halfway, not because the grief was unbearable, but because I lost interest. Every ordinary thing felt slightly disloyal. When I laughed with Walter about a bowl that resembled a shoe, I thought of Leah. When I bought canned peas, I put them back. When I passed the bakery, I wondered if she knew Adrian had brought me the croissant. Adrian sent 2 messages, thinking of you. Then, 4 days later, she's still angry. She's also sad. I answered only the second. So am I. 3 weeks after the dinner, someone knocked while I was washing clay from my hands. I expected Paula. She had developed the habit of arriving with travel brochures and foods she claimed were too large to eat alone. Corinne stood on my porch. She wore no makeup. Her silver hair had escaped its clip, and she held her purse against her stomach with both hands. "I called," she said. "I know. You didn't answer. I know that too." She looked past me into the house, then back at my face. Leah asked me not to see her for a while. I stepped aside. Corinne entered, saw the crooked map, and said, "Before you ask, no." I didn't leave. I closed the door. "Then what did you do?" She set her purse on the chair beneath the red and blue pins. "I told her you raised her." I stared at her. "You told her that?" "Yes." "What exactly did you say?" "That you raised her." "That I didn't." Corinne sat in the chair beneath the map. Her purse rested beside her, still closed, as if she had come without the usual equipment for staying. "And she asked you not to see her?" "After several other things." "That sounds more like Leah." I went to the kitchen. "Do you want coffee?" "Yes. It's afternoon." I didn't sleep. Neither did I for a week. Nobody made me coffee. "That sounds like a no. It's a complaint. Those are different." I made a fresh pot. Corinne wandered into the dining room and looked at the little blue dish holding my folded speech card. She did not touch it. Then she studied the map. "You moved the pin." "I went there." "You and Paula?" "Yes." "Did you have fun?" "More than the hotel deserved." "What's the blue one?" "Next time." She smiled faintly. "Good." I poured coffee into 2 mugs and carried them to the table. "When did you tell Leah?" I asked. "Last Thursday." "Why?" "She wanted to work on the album again." I waited. "She had made a list," Corinne continued. "Holidays, trips, stories she thought I might remember. She asked what I used to cook for Christmas." "What did you say?" "The truth." "I didn't remember. You weren't there for most Christmases." "I know." "Did she?" "She said we must have had traditions before." I wrapped both hands around my mug. Corinne stared into her coffee. There were traditions. They just weren't the ones she wanted. "I called on Christmas morning, sometimes Christmas afternoon, once the day after, 3 days after." She looked up. "That year you called 3 days after." "All right. I'm not correcting you to be cruel, I know." 3 days. She breathed out. "I told her I couldn't fill an album with memories I didn't have. She said we could ask you, that you would know the dates, the places, who was there. And then I said that was the problem." "What problem?" "That every time I didn't know something, we took it from you and used it to make me look less absent." I let the words settle. "She got angry," Corinne said. "She said I was ashamed in letting you control the story. Were you ashamed?" "Yes." "Was I controlling it?" "No. You didn't hesitate. I've had 3 weeks to think." She drank her coffee and made a face. "Too strong?" "No." "I forgot you use real coffee." "What do you use?" "A machine with pods. Those are real too." "You don't think so. I don't think about them. You have a very efficient way of insulting people. I've been told." Corinne looked toward the living room where Michael's photograph sat near the lamp. "I told Leah she was turning you into a filing cabinet," she said. "A filing cabinet?" "She opens a drawer, takes whatever she needs, then shuts you again. That is almost poetic." I rehearsed. Despite myself, I smiled. "She said you'd gotten to me," Corinne continued, "that you wanted me to say it." I didn't. I told her that. Then she asked why I had called her our daughter at the dinner if I didn't believe I was her mother. "What did you say?" "That being her mother and raising her were not the same fact." The mug warmed my hands. "That was when she started crying," Corinne said. I looked away. Leah rarely cried in front of people she did not entirely trust. Apparently that category now included all of us. She said we were both punishing her for wanting a mother. She already had one. "I know." "Do you?" Corinne met my eyes. "Yes." There was no challenge in it. I stood and carried my coffee to the window. The backyard had gone dull with late-season cold. Michael's empty bird feeder swayed from the fence, though there was almost no wind. "What did you say when she accused you of leaving again?" I asked. Corinne flinched. "How did you know?" "Because she accused you of using blame as an exit at the dinner. She was already waiting for the door. I told her I wasn't leaving. I said I'd still call. I'd still come when she wanted me. But I wouldn't sit there while she turned your memories into mine. And she asked for space. She said if I couldn't accept the relationship she was offering, maybe we shouldn't have one." My anger rose so quickly I had to put down the mug. "That sounds like her when she's cornered. It sounds like me 30 years ago. That doesn't excuse it." "No, stop agreeing with me. What would you prefer?" "I don't know. Something I can push against." She leaned back in her chair. "I did enjoy the retirement dinner." "I know. You asked me that before, and I said not the way you meant. I remember. I knew people were making assumptions. I saw the way they looked at the three of us in that photograph. They saw 3 women standing under a damaged banner. They saw a family. We were a family. An uncomfortable one. They didn't know which parts belonged to whom. No. And I let them believe the version that made me look best." I turned from the window. Corinne's eyes were wet, but she did not look away. When I stood up and called Leah our daughter, "I knew what the room would hear," she said. "Maybe I didn't know what she'd asked you in the hallway, but I knew your speech had gone thin. I knew something had been removed. You could have corrected it." "Yes." "You could have said I raised her." "Yes." "But you didn't." "No." The refrigerator started humming behind us. I thought an admission would feel like being handed something back. It did not. The night remained exactly where it was. "I'm sorry," she said. I sat across from her again. "Thank you, that's it? What else do you want?" I thought you might yell, "I'm retired." She laughed, wiping beneath one eye. "I don't forgive you for the dinner," I said. "Not yet." "All right, but I believe your apology." Her mouth trembled. "That is more than I expected. Don't make it noble." "I'm trying not to." We sat quietly. After a while, Corinne asked, "Did you ever hate me?" "Yes." She blinked. "You wanted honesty. I didn't expect it that quickly. I hated you the night you didn't come to Leah's promotion dinner. I hated you when Michael defended you because he thought saying you were selfish would make Leah believe she came from something bad. I hated you once in a supermarket because I saw your brand of shampoo." "My shampoo?" It was an emotionally complicated aisle. She laughed again, then covered her mouth. "I also felt sorry for you," I said. "That was worse. I imagine. And sometimes I was grateful." "For what?" "For making Leah. For making Michael laugh before I knew him. For the soup." Corinne lowered her hand. "You don't have to give me that. I'm not giving it. It happened." Her eyes moved toward Michael's picture. "I kept thinking I would come back when I was better," she said. "When I had a stable job, when I wasn't ashamed, when I could explain myself in a way that made sense. Every year I waited made returning harder. Then you were there. That did not make returning harder. It made it easier for me to tell myself she was fine. That's different. Yes. You used my staying as permission to keep leaving. Yes. I hated how little satisfaction there was in being right when the other person finally agreed." Corinne pressed her palms flat against the table. "What do we do now?" "We. With Leah." "There is no we." She looked hurt. "I don't mean there can never be a relationship between us," I said. "I mean we do not form a committee. You talk to her about what happened between you. I talk to her about what happened between us. She won't talk to either of us. Then we wait. She thinks she ruined everything. She did damage. That isn't the same as ruining." "No." Corinne looked at the map again. "You always sound so certain. I am sitting beneath a crooked map with one dish that holds 3 olives. My certainty has limits." She followed my gaze to the blue dish. "What's in there?" "My speech. The one you didn't give?" "Part of it." "Will you show Leah?" "If she asks." "Will she?" "I don't know." Corinne stood to leave an hour later. At the door, she took her copy of the lake photograph from her purse. The envelope had softened at the corners. "I'm getting a frame," she said. "For the copy. You don't have to emphasize that word. I thought you might appreciate it." "I do." She held the photograph against her coat. "I'm not going to disappear this time. Don't say it to me. I already said it to her. Then keep saying it when she's angry." Corinne nodded. After she left, I straightened the map, only slightly. The next day, Adrian called from his car during lunch. "Corinne told me she saw you." "She did. Leah knows." I assumed Corinne would tell her. "She thinks the two of you are discussing her. We discussed ourselves. That distinction is not currently available to Leah. It will have to become available." He was quiet. Then he said, "How long does this go on?" "I don't know." "She misses you." "I miss her. She thinks you want her to choose Corinne less. I want her to stop choosing me only when no one can see." That's a good sentence. It's an awful way to live. I meant, I know. Traffic sounded behind him. A horn, then Adrian muttering something about lane discipline. "She's afraid to call because she doesn't know how to fix it," he said. "I'm not asking her to fix everything. What are you asking?" "To tell the truth about what she did. She knows what she did. Knowing alone is private." "I've had enough private truths." He exhaled. "That's also a good sentence. I'm hanging up." "Wait. What? I'm not asking you to call her. I just need to know whether the door is open." I looked at the front door Corinne had walked through the day before. "Yes, I'll tell her." "No." "Why?" "Because then you become the hinge. Let her touch the door herself." Adrian was silent for a moment. "Your family uses a lot of house metaphors. It saves on construction." At pottery, Sylvia handed me the fired pitcher. The handle remained attached, but the seam was visible beneath the pale green glaze. "Don't hide it," she said. "That's where the work happened." "Do you practice these lines?" "No. People bring me their metaphors. I just fire them." Walter's spoon rest had somehow become another ashtray. I took the pitcher home and set it beneath the map. It tilted backward, stubborn and intact. That evening, the phone rang while I was watering a plant Michael had bought as a fern and which had spent 9 years proving it was not. Leah's name appeared. I answered before the second ring. "Hi, Mama," she said. "Hi." Her breath caught at the ordinary word. "Can I come over tomorrow?" I sat down on the arm of the sofa. "Yes, alone." "All right. I don't know what to say yet. You don't have to say it tonight." Another breath. "Tomorrow at 6, I'll be here." "I know," she said. This time, the words did not sound like an accusation. I spent the next day trying not to prepare for her. I did not make dinner. I did not clean the guest room. I did not buy almond croissants or put fresh sheets on a bed no one had asked to use. I dusted the dining table twice. At 5:30, I changed my shirt, then changed it back. At 5:45, I moved the pitcher from beneath the map to the kitchen counter because it looked like I had arranged evidence of personal growth. At 5:50, I moved it back. Leah rang the doorbell at 6 exactly. She had a key. The fact that she rang made my chest tighten. When I opened the door, she stood with both hands in the pockets of her coat. No coffee, no flowers, no casserole dish returning under suspicious circumstances. "Hi," she said. "Hi, can I come in?" "Of course." She stepped past me and paused in the dining room. "You straightened the map." "Only slightly." Her eyes found the pins. "The art museum?" "Eventually." "And the picture?" "Pottery. You made that too?" "Yes. It leans. It has opinions." She smiled, but the smile did not survive long enough to become shelter. I offered coffee. She asked for water. I gave her a glass, then sat across from her at the dining table. The blue dish was between us, my folded note card visible inside it. Leah kept both hands around the water without drinking. "I talked to Corinne," she said. "I know. She told me she came here. Yes. I was angry. I know that too." "Adrian told you?" "He said you knew. I called her after he told me you'd spoken. I accused her of choosing you." I waited. She said she wasn't choosing you, she was choosing not to lie. That sounds like Corinne after 3 weeks of rehearsal. Leah almost laughed. She told me about the retirement dinner, that she knew the room was misunderstanding and liked it. She told me the same. I thought you'd be happy. I wasn't. Why not? Because being proven right is a poor substitute for not being hurt. Leah looked down at her glass. I keep thinking about what you said on the porch. I said several things. That I needed you to disappear so she wouldn't. Her thumb moved through the condensation. I hated you for saying it. I know. Then I hated her for agreeing. I imagine. Then I realized I'd spent 3 weeks hating anybody who said the same thing because it was easier than asking whether it was true. I looked at her across the table. Is it? Yes. The word came quietly with no demand that I rescue her from it. Leah took a breath. When Corinne came back this time, she was different. She didn't make a huge promise. She didn't ask me to forgive her. She just asked if I'd have lunch. I remember. I thought that meant I could control it. One lunch, then another. I could keep my expectations low, but you didn't. No. She finally drank the water. Every time she remembered something, it felt like proof, she said. The motel, the station wagon, a restaurant Dad liked. If she remembered, then maybe I had mattered to her even when she wasn't there. You mattered to her. I know that now. I'm not sure I knew it then. You didn't trust it. How could I? It was not accusation. It was grief. You couldn't, I said. She nodded. Then she forgot things, or remembered them wrong. Every blank felt like being left again, so I filled them. With me. With what you knew. That isn't the same thing. I know. She looked toward the shoe boxes, which I had moved from the table back to the wall but had not yet returned to the closet. I thought if I could make enough connections, the years would stop looking so empty. Were they empty? No. Her eyes came back to me. That was the part I didn't want to look at. I held still. They weren't empty because you were there, she said. Dad was there. Adrian later. Aunt Paula, even when nobody asked her. Nobody ever asks her. She comes anyway. It's her ministry. Leah smiled through wet eyes. I had a whole life, she said. A good one. Not perfect, but full. And somehow, admitting that felt like admitting I didn't need Corinne. You're allowed to want someone you don't need. I know that in theory. In practice, it's unpleasant. I wanted her to believe there was still a place only she could fill. There is. What? She is the only person who can be Corinne. That sounds obvious. Most important things do after somebody else says them. Leah wiped beneath one eye with the heel of her hand. At the retirement dinner, she was already nervous. She asked me 3 times whether you really wanted her there. I told her she should stay. I know, but I could tell you were angry about the seating. I wasn't angry about the chair. You looked at it. I look at furniture. Mama. All right. I was irritated. And I knew you'd written a speech. You never use note cards unless you're planning to say something specific. She looked toward the blue dish. I saw the words "Raised Leah" when I came into your bedroom. I remembered the card on the bed beside me before I folded it into my purse. She must have seen it while straightening my watch. You knew before we reached the restaurant. Yes. Then why wait until I was about to speak? I kept telling myself it would be fine. Then Corinne got quiet when Ruth mentioned college, and I saw everybody noticing. I panicked. So you pulled me into the hallway. Yes. And asked me to remove myself. I asked you not to say you raised me. I remember. Leah flinched. I'm sorry. The words did not repair anything. They entered the room and sat between us, small but real. I'm sorry, I asked. She continued. I'm sorry I made it sound like loving me was something you should hide because it might embarrass her. It embarrassed you. She closed her eyes. Yes. I had not expected the answer. Why? Because everybody at that dinner knew you. They knew what you'd done. Corinne could feel it, and I could feel myself becoming the woman whose biological mother left while another woman did all the work. You were never the woman whose mother left to those people. I was to myself. Her voice broke. I was ashamed of how badly I still wanted her to choose me. I thought if you said you raised me, everyone would understand that she didn't, and then they'd see how ridiculous I was for still trying. There is nothing ridiculous about wanting your mother. I had my mother. I looked away. Leah reached across the table but stopped before touching my hand. You raised me, she said. You. You made the appointments and answered the phone and sat in the car and brought the wrong tools to fix my radiator. They were the right tools. It was the wrong problem. A laugh escaped her through tears. You moved me into 3 apartments. The 3rd floor one nearly killed me. You told me the building had character. It had stairs and a smell. You slept on my floor because the bed frame was missing pieces. I suspected Adrian. You hadn't met Adrian. I suspected him in advance. She laughed again, and this time I did too. Then the laughter passed, leaving the apology where it was. You raised me, she repeated. I shouldn't have asked you to make that smaller. Not for one night. Not for anyone. Thank you. Is that all you're going to say? What would you like? I don't know. Something that tells me I haven't destroyed this. I looked at her hand resting halfway across the table. You haven't destroyed it. Can you forgive me? Eventually. Her hand pulled back. I'm not saying no, I said. I'm saying I don't know what forgiveness looks like yet. I apologized. Yes. And you believe me? Yes. But it's not enough. It's enough for tonight. She looked toward the map, the picture, the blue dish. You made a whole life while I wasn't talking to you. I made a picture. You went away. For 4 days. You didn't need me. That is not a terrible thing. It feels like one. Why? Because I thought you'd always be exactly where I left you. There was the sentence Adrian had been trying to tell me. I will not always be where you left me, I said. That doesn't mean I'm gone. She nodded slowly. What happens now? We stopped pretending normal was working, meaning you don't come back and expect me to plan every Sunday, remember everything for everyone, and quietly fix whatever breaks in the kitchen. The gravy? The gravy is a metaphor now. Of course it is. Pottery has been a bad influence. She looked at the picture. What if I don't know how to do this differently? Then you learn. With me? Yes. The answer came before I could protect it. Her face crumpled. She covered her mouth, and I stood so quickly my chair scraped the floor. When I put my arms around her, she held on with both hands, not like a woman being rescued, but like one accepting the cost of being found. We stayed that way until the refrigerator began humming and the brass clock clicked uselessly in the living room. When we sat again, Leah touched the folded card in the blue dish. Is this the speech? The bones of it. Can I see? I unfolded the note card and slid it across the table. She read each line. Radiator. 3 apartments. Hardest good thing. Her lips pressed together. What were you going to say? That raising you was the hardest good thing I had ever done. She turned the card over as though more might be written on the back. Why hardest? Because you were stubborn, expensive, and attracted to apartments without elevators. I'm serious. So am I, Mama. I took back the card, but I did not fold it. Because loving someone does not make every day feel loving, I said. Sometimes it feels like driving through sleet because a radiator sounds dangerous. Sometimes it feels like paying a deposit you cannot afford. Sometimes it feels like sitting quietly while the person you love tells you not to say what you did. Leah lowered her eyes. And the good part? She asked. You. She cried without making a sound. I let her. After a while, she told me she had opened Corinne's 4 birthday cards. None contained a grand explanation. One apologized badly. One apologized for apologizing badly. The last simply said, I keep thinking I should wait until I know how to do this. Waiting is what I have always done wrong." "Have you called her?" I asked. "No. Do you want to?" "Yes." "Then call." "I'm still angry. You can be angry on the phone. What if she leaves? Then you deal with what happens. You don't build a lie to prevent it." Leah nodded. Before she went home, she asked if she and Adrian could come for coffee on Sunday. "Coffee," I said. "Not an entire weekend. I understand, and bring the almond croissants. I knew he told you." He returned a casserole dish under false pretenses. At the door, she touched my wrist the way she had at the restaurant, checking that I was there. Then she stopped herself. I took her hand. "Sunday," I said. "Sunday." After her car disappeared, I returned to the dining room. The note card lay open on the table, no longer compressed into a square small enough to hide in my purse. I left it that way. Adrian arrived Sunday carrying 2 almond croissants, 1 plain croissant, and a paper bag marked "Emergency Backup." "What's in the backup bag?" I asked. 2 more almond croissants. You understand me. I understand contingency planning." Leah stood behind him with the green sweater folded over one arm. "I thought I'd leave this here again," she said. Adrian looked at her. "Didn't I just retrieve that? It belongs on the guest room chair." "You said we weren't staying," I said. "We're not. The sweater is. That makes no sense. It's symbolic. Of what?" "I haven't decided." She carried it upstairs. Adrian watched her go, then set the bags on the counter. "How are you?" "Retired." "Is that an emotion?" "It's becoming one." He nodded toward the dining room where the note card still lay open. "You two talked?" "We did." "How bad?" "Less bad than the gravy. That gravy has become unfairly famous. We needed a shared enemy." Leah returned and heard the last sentence. "I called Corinne," she said. Adrian looked at her. "When?" "This morning." "How did it go?" She answered. All 3 of us understood that was not a small thing. We took our coffee and pastries to the table. Leah sat beside me rather than across from me, though she left enough space between our chairs that closeness did not become a performance. "She was angry," Leah said. "She said I punished her for telling the truth." "Did you?" I asked. "Yes." "What did you say?" "That I was sorry." "And?" "She didn't forgive me immediately." "Unreasonable woman." Leah gave me a look. "I'm noticing a family pattern. She learned it independently. She said she still wants lunch next week, but she doesn't want to work on the album." "Good." Leah stiffened. "I mean good that she told you what she wants," I said. "Oh, do you still want to make it?" "I don't know." She broke off the corner of her croissant and let the crumbs collect on her napkin. "I think I wanted a finished object," she said. "Something I could close and say there, that's our relationship." "People are badly designed for albums," Adrian said. "Sometimes you say useful things," I told him. "I'm putting that on my performance review." Leah smiled. She did not stay for dinner. At 2:30, she stood, carried her cup to the sink, and said, "We should go." The old version of me would have asked them to stay. I would have listed what was in the refrigerator, then offered to cook something that was not in the refrigerator. I would have converted coffee into an entire day, because any departure felt like a verdict. Instead, I kissed them both goodbye. At the door, Leah touched my arm. "Next Sunday," she asked. "I have pottery in the afternoon." "Since when is pottery on Sunday?" "Sylvia scheduled an open studio. Can we come?" "If you want." "Will there be ashtrays?" An alarming number. Walter had produced 6 by then. He claimed he was exploring repetition. Sylvia said he was avoiding bowls. Leah and Adrian came to the studio and stayed almost 2 hours. Leah admired everything I had made, including a vase that leaned so far to one side, Sylvia had displayed it against a wall for safety. Corinne did not come. She and Leah were still keeping their meetings separate, not because I demanded it, but because neither of them was ready to pretend that one honest conversation had made the 3 of us easy. That suited me. For a while, reconciliation was mostly logistics. Leah called before coming over. I stopped assuming every Sunday belonged to her. When she asked a question about Corinne's past, she sometimes caught herself halfway through. "Do you remember whether Corinne?" she began once, then stopped. "Never mind, I'll ask her. Thank you. Does it still bother you if I tell you afterward?" "No." "What if she doesn't remember?" "Then she doesn't remember. You make that sound simple. It's simple. That doesn't make it painless." She was learning the difference. So was I. There were failures. At lunch one afternoon, Leah referred to the retirement dinner as the night everyone overreacted. I put down my fork. She closed her eyes and said no. "That was cowardly? I'm sorry." Another time, she asked me to remind Corinne that they had plans because Corinne had not answered a text. I refused. Leah said, "Fine," with enough force to move the salt shaker. 10 minutes later, she apologized to the salt shaker before she apologized to me. I accepted both. Corinne kept her lunches with Leah. Sometimes they went well. Sometimes Corinne canceled, but she did it directly and offered another date instead of disappearing. Leah hated the cancellations and slowly learned not to treat them as prophecy. When she called me afterward, I listened to how she felt without interpreting what Corinne meant. That was harder than it sounds. Mothers get used to turning static into messages. A sigh becomes exhaustion. Silence becomes danger. A daughter says, "It's nothing," and a mother begins constructing scaffolding around the nothing. I had to learn to hear a closed door without immediately searching for the key. Corinne came to my house once a month for coffee. Neither of us called it friendship. She brought her framed copy of the lake photograph the first time because she wanted to show me the frame. It was simple, dark wood, with a small card tucked behind it where she had written Michael's line about dropping the room key in her coffee. "You copied his words," I said. "I did. It looks nice." That sounded almost enthusiastic. "Don't push." She asked if I would scan the other photographs of her. I said yes. She did not ask for the originals. We spent an afternoon at the copy shop while a machine jammed every 7 pages. Corinne swore at it with an inventiveness I had not expected. I began to understand where Leah got her ability to make an office device feel personally ashamed. When the scans were finished, Corinne held the envelope against her chest. "I don't know what to do with these," she said. "Look at them. That's all? That's what photographs are for. I don't have to turn them into something?" "No." She nodded, relieved. The original Lake Geneva picture went back into Michael's shoebox. I returned both boxes to the bedroom closet beneath the quilts, though I placed them where Leah could reach them without moving the bag of funeral shoes. The retirement note card did not go back in the drawer. I kept it in the blue dish until the ink began to fade where the light reached it. Then I put it in an envelope and wrote on the front, what I meant to say, not what I was forbidden to say. The difference mattered. My pitcher developed a hairline crack near the handle. Sylvia said it would hold water if I did not ask too much of it. "That describes most relationships," Walter said. Sylvia looked at his latest ashtray. "Make a cup. I have principles. You have 7 ashtrays and no smoking habit." He made a cup. I made another pitcher, smaller and less stubborn. The first one remained beneath the map. By spring, the map held 3 red pins and 2 blue ones. Paula and I visited the art museum and spent most of the afternoon arguing over a sculpture she insisted was installed upside down. We took a train to a town where neither of us knew anyone. I went alone to a hotel 2 hours away for one night, not because the destination mattered, but because I wanted to prove solitude could be chosen rather than endured. Leah worried. She asked for the address, the hotel name, my train schedule, and whether the room had interior hallways. Then she stopped and said, "I'm doing too much, aren't I? A little." "Text when you arrive?" "Yes, I did." The cost of our fight did not disappear simply because our conversations improved. We had lost weeks we could not reclaim. Some of our old ease never returned. Leah no longer let herself into my house without knocking, and although I told her she could, part of me was grateful that she waited at the door. There are forms of closeness built on assumption. Ours had to become a choice. On the first anniversary of my retirement dinner, Leah asked if I wanted to go back to the same restaurant. No. Too many memories? The gravy was better at your house. That is not true. It was more educational. We agreed on dinner at her place instead. No banner, no speeches, no fifth plate. Corinne arrived with a bottle of wine and a pie. She admitted came from a bakery. Adrian made roast chicken. Leah made potatoes without requesting instructions from me, though she called 2 days earlier to ask whether using garlic would be disrespectful to the concept. Potatoes do not have a concept, I told her. You sound like Sylvia. That is the worst thing anyone has said to me. The four of us sat at the same table where the anniversary dinner had broken apart. Michael's photograph remained on the mantel, but the lake picture was not beside it. Leah had stopped using objects to force agreement. She had framed her copy in her office where it could belong to her without proving anything about the rest of us. Dinner was ordinary. That was its achievement. Adrian complained about a new bus route. Corinne told us she had joined a walking group and disliked every member but enjoyed the walking. Leah described a man at work who used the phrase circle back so often that she had begun counting. Halfway through the meal, she reached for the pepper. Corinne moved it away from her. You already used it, she said. I can use it twice. You'll ruin the potatoes. They're my potatoes. That doesn't make you qualified. Adrian looked at me. See what happens when a woman is raised by two people who both believe seasonings are moral decisions. It was a joke, a harmless sentence. He realized what he had said only after it was in the room. His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Corinne looked down at her plate. A year earlier, Leah would have laughed too quickly. She would have rescued the mood, changed the subject, or looked at me with a silent request to let one sentence go. This time, she set down the pepper. Nora raised me, she said. She did not look ashamed. Then she turned to Corinne. You and I are getting to know each other now. The words were gentle. They did not shrink Corinne or make her leave. Corinne nodded. Yes, we are. Adrian looked at me. I'm sorry. You should be. You've endangered the potatoes. He laughed with relief. No one applauded. No one made a speech. Leah passed me the pepper. Corinne asked for the salt. I handed it to her, and the dinner continued.